because this is a little bit outside of esports, but still inside of it. We've got some great guests. Let's run through what's going to happen tonight. As you see here, we've got some really awesome guests, Danielle Johnson, as well as Kevin Thomas and Corporal Flores. We're going to be actually showing a stream of gameplay later tonight that you can see right here. It is the match of the week in Valorant between Fort Scott Community College and Monroe Community College B team. They are going to be playing right here on twitch.tv/NJCAAE at 7 p.m. Eastern. But before we go any further, I'm going to bring back in one of the really coolest Army people I know for esports. He's a pretty cool guy. This is Corporal Flores. Jump on in here. How are you, sir? Welcome back to the show.
Hey there, Bubba. How's it going?
Man, it's good. Where are you today?
I am actually at home. I was going to do this from the booth at the office, but I was already home. It's a little more comfy, and I've been working on some of my 2 PC setups for a little bit. So just polishing some things.
That's cool. You seem to be in a different spot every time I see you. So
yes,
I'm glad you're home, and you're obviously. We'll have to talk later in the show about what you were involved in last night on Twitch, and so I definitely want to. We might need a shoutcast and play by play some of your actions there, so you can teach us how to put people on skates.
Maybe. Some of those matches were rough. Others were a little bit better, but absolutely.
Awesome. Well, let's jump into leadership skills. I'd love to jump in about your perspective when it comes to the Army National Guard and the skills developed in the Army National Guard and how those are transferred to everyday life.
Absolutely. So, leadership and the Army National Guard basically go hand in hand. From the very moment you joined the Army National Guard, you ship off to basic training. You learn how to master yourself individually, and just about everything we do together as a team. So every objective or every training cycle, you're trying to hit different things, and you move as one unit, right? Now, to be an effective leader, right, you have to be a very effective follower, right, of knowing how to, you get a certain order of like, hey, the team needs to do this, and be able to be a team player to accomplish that goal. And then once you're a leader, kind of, works hand in hand. So the biggest thing with the Army National Guard is that individual growth. So obviously you go to basic training, you learn your additional training outside of that, whether you're working in information technology or being fire support like myself, you learn how to master yourself, right? And from there, you start kind of growing as an individual and being able to take charge of small tasks at first, right? Then you're in charge of 2 people, then 5, then 10, and you kind of scale up. It's funny. It's almost like you're kind of gaining experience, right? Which is essentially what it is. Again, the team building is the biggest portion of that. Is you have to be a good team player to be an even better leader. Now, as far as things that carry over from the Army National Guard into everyday aspects of life, so I actually work for a large healthcare provider, and sometimes we get those moments where we get swamped. They're, couple $100,000 on the line when claims aren't processed carefully or properly. Then we have to reach out and do kind of a crisis prevention, essentially, and being able to jump into that leadership role when kind of you have a million things rolling at you at once, getting your people together and being able to enact the change that needs to happen to meet the mission so it's successful is really awesome. And it carries over into everything. I'll be with my friends and it'll normally gravitate to where, hey, something needs to happen. It requires more coordination, getting people together. You kind of just end up getting pushed into that leadership role because everybody kind of looks at you like, so what do we do? What are we doing now? And that's something that just comes, with the training. Is it just becomes second nature, including for raids and stuff online, right? And another neat thing with leadership in the Army National Guard is you actually get trained for it. This whole month of September, I was for a whole month doing a leadership training course. So I was paid for an entire month to learn how to become a better leader. Not a lot of, jobs out there do that for you. And that's something else that goes attached on top of my resume, saying that, hey, I've been to this leadership training. I was taught this, and this, and that was my job for that time to become a better leader. It wasn't of like, oh, you pick it up along the way. So there's a lot of little ancillary benefits that come along with, service. And then referencing back, every time I see that video that we just saw right now, it just always pulls at my heartstrings. Being from Texas myself, shout out to Texas, right? Is that fortunately we get a lot of hurricanes over there, and seeing, when natural disasters and things like that happen, nothing is ever planned. You can make all these plans to, hey, we'll get food out here this way. We'll help out those most in need. How do you choose who needs the most help and whatnot? So there's all these different things that are happening at once with a natural, it's a disaster, right? So being able to jump in and use those skills on an individual level or your individual team to make the right decisions and help save people's lives is massive. And that's something that you carry with you for the rest of your life, whether you're, working at, even if you volunteer for your community college or esports organization, they need someone to run streams. They need someone to produce stuff, to set up tournaments. Jump in there, get that experience. It's a constant practice is how you get better.
Love it, Corporal Flores. Thank you so much for sharing about leadership and what it's like in the Army National Guard, how that translates. So I'm gonna bring you back in a little bit later,
Sure.
and we're gonna talk more. I want to learn more about your job and your jobs in the Army National Guard, your fire team,
Absolutely.
and that stuff. I want to understand more. So yeah, thank you so much, sir.
Absolutely.
Appreciate you.
You got it.
Okay, so we are gonna move right along. I'm gonna bring in an amazing lady who I met, I'm not sure when, maybe a year or two ago, but we've got Miss Danielle Johnson, the executive director of the Texas Scholastic Esports Federation. Go ahead and jump on in there. Hello, how are you?
Hi, I'm good. I'm a little tired. The school year's been a little rough.
You just got home, right?
Yes.
And what are you teaching? What grades?
Along with being the executive director for the Texas Scholastic Esports Federation, I am also a middle school CTE teacher. So I teach technology to middle schoolers.
I love it. And how long have you done that teaching?
Oh, 15 years.
Nice. Always in that same grade, or did you like start at lower grades or earlier, higher grades?
I started in high school, and then they're all taller than me. So it's just generally hard to see around the classroom. But I just really found my niche in sixth grade. I teach all sixth, seventh, and eighth, just wherever. But yeah, I teach mostly sixth graders.
Nice. Okay. Awesome. Well, I want to get a quick bio here of TechSef as well before we jump into leadership questions and what you've seen and what you've seen successful. Just let's have a conversation, but really learning from you is really what I want to do, and I think the audience as well. But learning a little bit about the bio of TechSef and what happened to what was the catalyst to starting TechSef, and where are you guys now, and where do you guys want to be?
So TechSef is a educator-run nonprofit esports league for Texas schools. And one of our goals is for esports to be an accessible, inclusive, and equitable path to college, career, and military readiness for all Texas students. And when I say it's teacher-run, it is teacher-run. Almost all of our board have been or are classroom teachers or public school employees. And we just saw a need that needed filling. I know Varsity Sports Foundation does something similar out of the same general need for more ways to connect students to school and to each other. And we sort of announced ourselves in February of 2020. And I think that's where you and I met, was at an education conference in February of 2020. And as we know, like March of 2020, like the world fell apart. And that actually advanced our goals much faster than we had anticipated. So we had planned to launch in August of 2020, with the school year and have a league. But we started running tournaments that spring, knowing that our kids were home, didn't know what to do. They were bored, and bored kids make bad decisions. So, anything to alleviate the boredom. And now we run our leagues. So we play on Tuesdays and Thursdays. We also do individual like weekend tournaments. We do college fairs, professional development, speak at conferences, a lot of stuff. So pretty much if it needs a teacher and esports in Texas, we are there.
You guys are. You've got a great team. You've been leading a bunch of people who you have to, deal with. I know there are a lot of fun people, but you do it well. And gosh, Texas is definitely on the radar constantly, in my mind, for what's happening in esports and Scholastic. So thank you for all your efforts there, first of all. Now you guys are running, what games are you guys running in your league?
So this fall we are doing Rocket League and Smite. We really try to stay with the cross-platform free-to-play games
Mhm.
because most students in Texas are low socioeconomic,
Mhm.
and we don't want there to be a financial barrier for students to be able to access these things, especially right now where a lot of schools are not funding these programs. It is the individual teachers kind of muscling it through, begging,
Mhm.
borrowing, and repurposing equipment, or kids are playing at home. And so we don't want there to be a financial burden. So we try to stay with the free to play
Mhm.
cross-platform games. We are doing a Fortnite tournament coming up pretty soon. We're running some Minecraft build challenges, but yeah, that's what we try to
Awesome.
do. So I think we're running Overwatch in the spring, but we get those licenses granted to us.
Mhm.
So
Minecraft build challenges, so much fun. My kids love them. My kids love. I mean, they've done a couple of the challenges, and they just my 6-year-old. He's just like, I think I'm going to build an Among Us character floating in the sky. And he's never even played Among Us. I guess he's seen a picture. Quick question: What maybe you're saying in the chat you're not that great at video games, but what games do you like and have you played recently?
So this actually comes up with my students a lot. I would never before even the first year of starting tech stuff have called myself a gamer. I am a people organizer. That is what I do. That is what I'm good at. And initially, I wasn't running the show at TechSF. But I have gotten much more into the games lately.
Mm.
So what I realized is that as a console player, I can still call myself a gamer. I was really hesitant about that with the whole like PC overlords, being a little gatekeepy, but I've really come to embrace my gamer self. My favorite games recently, I love
Mhm.
Animal Crossing. It's a great
Mm.
escape, but Hades is literature in video game form. And I
Nice.
just fell in love with the story and the writing of the game and forgot how frustrating and maddening it was. But lately, I've been really into Pokemon Unite. I've never really played competitive games before because there's not a whole lot of competitive things for console. It's a lot of PC games. And so I've really gotten into that. And I am so excited about its potential being
Mhm.
free and cross platform. And 10-minute matches are just perfect for
Mhm.
kids.
Yeah. Well, you're probably appealing to the gamers here in the chat. There's quite a few people watching on Twitch right now. And while we've got there engaged talking about video games and Pokemon, shiny stuff, let's talk about leadership. I'd love to hear kind of what your leadership approach is with your sixth graders or with even the esport clubs you work with, or even, I mean, your group of volunteers that work with TechSef, and how you see that being something that we need to find that's transferable to everyday life as well.
I fall into one fundamental principle, and that is fall in love with the problem, not the solution. And so getting down to the core of what is the need that is not being met and how can we meet it? And that is what we do. We fall in love with the problem of getting esports into every school in Texas. We fall in love with the problem of engaging teachers in this, even if they are not gamers, if it's a little bit nerve wracking, but their kids are asking for it. We've done way crazier things for our students than start video game clubs or esports teams. Um, and so falling in love with the challenge and really staying focused on the problem and who it affects, how it affects them, being user focused and prototype driven. So we do instead of wait and plan. The first time's always going to suck. So we get the sucky one over with really fast, learn from our mistakes, and then go out and make it better. So at TechSF, we are not afraid to screw it up and admit that we may not have everything together, but that we are going to do better every single time we do something. So it is falling in love with the problem. It is being user focused, prototype driven. And also, one of the things that I've really found out in leadership is that my number one goal is to get people excited about the problem. So when I talk to potential sponsors, when I am out there like selling esports in schools as a concept, I am trying to get people excited about our problem. Because once they're excited about your problem, they're invested in seeing you succeed.
I love it. Perfectly said, obviously. What does little Danielle and big Danielle, like, what do you think when your younger self, sorry, I guess I said little because you
Yeah.
obviously get made fun
Yeah.
of your height.
My
Younger
height.
Danielle,
Yeah.
younger
Yeah.
Danielle, how do you think your leadership, what would you tell your younger self about leadership? Let's ask that question.
Nobody's paying as much attention to you as you are. I used to be incredibly self-conscious about like everything pretty much. And then I finally realized that nobody is paying as much attention to me as I am. And that's fine. My number one goal when like I was always really anxious and nervous around people, some major social anxiety. But have just realized that everybody feels that way. And so I can just fake it and everybody's gonna think I have it together. I'm really good at faking it, y'all. Really good. Um, but I never, even a few years ago, never would have seen myself in a video game space, an esports space. I was kind of heavy into like the ed tech scene at the time, which is how I came to be here. I actually was at an ed tech conference a few years ago and heard someone at an esports session say that we should start different leagues for girls and boys so girls don't get harassed. And I was like, that's not how that works. And was like, somebody really needs to do something about this. I mean, my son's a gamer. That's not a culture I would let him be a part of. And then I realized I was in a position to change it. So, I worked on defining the problem and what it really was at its core, and then finding other people to get excited with me.
That's excellent story for leadership from you, to be honest. I mean, and what you experienced and what you went through in order to take that next step, because that's I know I remember the first time maybe you and I talked about you getting on, I don't know where it was, you were on an event like this, and just the stepping out, being bold. So I appreciate you for what you've
Thank
done
you.
and what you do. You are very well known in the space, so we are paying attention to you. even though
Yay.
even though you may have to tell your younger self that that leadership information that you just gave,
At least
thank
y'all
you.
are, trying to get my
Mhm.
sixth graders to do that.
Well, that might be a losing battle. I don't know with kids. I've got a sixth grader. I don't think he even knows I'm alive sometimes, or he just, I don't know. Anyways, well, Daniel, any last parting words about leadership? And I'll probably bring you back in if we have some time at the end of the show to kind of talk to everybody as well. But last parting words about tech staff or leadership or anything going on in Texas?
People remember how you make them feel. And if you make them feel important and you make them feel heard and you get them excited with you, they're going to be invested in your success. And that's, as a leader, what you need. You need people to be invested in the success of the problem, the solution, the team. And as a leader, anytime I'm interacting with teachers or other, adults or students that are part of TechSF, I want them to leave with that shot of dopamine, and feel good about themselves and get excited about their ideas with them. I love crazy ideas and big ideas. So I'm always like, bring it. Like, what do you got? What do you want to do? And making people understand that they can take initiative, that oh, you are in a position to change this. You can do this. You can do hard things. So making people feel good about themselves when they're with you and getting them excited about the problems.
That's great. So I hear intentionality and effort and focus. So thank you. Thank you for shedding a little bit of light on leadership that we all need, especially from your perspective and where you've been and what you're going through. So
Thank
Danielle,
you.
hopefully we'll have some time at the end here. We'll chat some more, but I'm going to bring in Corporal Flores again. Thank you, Danielle. Everybody say bye in chat. Nope, I hear him. All right, Corporal Flores. Well,
Yes.
I heard some really good stuff about leadership skills today so far. I've heard
Absolutely.
how it can be transferred from Army National Guard. I've heard how the idea of being being relevant and being present is important. So give me some nice little nuggets of leadership. Just what can you you do this, you talk a lot about a lot of this stuff, so I know you can just give me some
Yeah.
nuggets of information.
Absolutely. I mean, it can be in relation to anything. You know, being a good leader is obviously being a great and effective follower. You want to make sure that you're always a team player first. That way, whenever it's your turn to lead the team, they know that you're there to get your mission, your goal across, to win the trophy or just move forward. Essentially, being a leader is really being a good listener, being there for your people, for your community, your organization, and it goes a long way. So, like back to what Danielle was saying about, feeling a little self-conscious about getting nervous in front of people or all these things, we all go through that. We all grow from it. And now that once you're on the other side, you're like, oh, it's not so bad. So I can get in front of, talk to thousands of people or even in person or online. And it's the same thing. As long as you know what you're doing and who you're doing it for, it goes a long way.
Well, I think Danielle, she might need a quote here on some sort of meme. She put it in chat: "Fall in love with problems, not solutions, and
Yes.
not the solutions." So, I mean, what's your take on? I can like just internally think, man, I do that way too much. Of how can I fix this, and what
Hmm.
will look good if I do this? Is there any in the Army National Guard? Is there any kind of um, focus on something like that where you're working on the problem and the solution at the same time, or what's a when
Yes.
you're trying to get something done, what do you guys focus on?
So I love the fact that she said that, first of all, because a lot of what we do is problem solving, because problems will always be there. It doesn't matter whether it's fixing a component, getting an event organized or making sure something doesn't fail. Problems will exist until the end of time. It's how you react and how you solve them. So the biggest thing is always analyze the problem, right? See what's going on. Okay, this is what needs to happen and start moving forward. A lot of the things that we learn as leaders, and again, how I was referencing where we actually go to schools within the Army to teach you to be a better leader. Um, you essentially, do, there's a whole process for that. So it's really neat. And it's you got to approach a problem like a puzzle, like, ooh, great, another puzzle for me to fix. And you get excited about it instead of, oh no, a problem, my day is going to end, or how are we going to get past, whatever. It's just, that's always going to happen. It's just how you react to it. And something that we get trained on is always, identify the problem while working out multiple solutions, and even coming back and you're refining that process. So it's pretty neat.
Oh,
It's,
wow,
it's
love it.
exciting.
Well, I want to bring you back in a little bit. I want to talk a little more about that, talk a little bit about your jobs, and also
Mhm.
maybe show a clip of you owning some folks. So we'll come back after we
All right,
talk with Kevin. All right, thank you,
got
Corporal
it.
Flores, appreciate you, sir. All right, so next up we're going to be having Kevin Thomas, the Director of Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion at the NJCAAE. How are you, sir?
I'm doing well, Bubba. I'm doing great. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, man, I'm so glad to chat with you again. I think we've talked a couple times, and I love what you're doing at the NJCAA, and I'd love to learn a little bit about what you've been doing in this space, whether it be community or grants or diversity,
Mhm.
equity, inclusion before the NJCAA, and then what you're doing now. What run me through, Kevin? What's been going on in your life with all these things?
So I kind of started in the field of EDI. My background actually is in human services. I started out, as a counselor prior to doing EDI work, counseling families, youth, and substance abuse, working for the police department with gangs who were locked up, and moving into behavior counseling. But later in my career, I started working in training departments, training individuals on working with certain populations and how to be effective in working with African American youth or women, or how to engage man into human services programs. And that kind of led me into specifically working in EDI. And so the last 5 years, I was working specifically EDI, equity, diversity, and inclusion here in Charlotte, North Carolina. And then I was blessed to receive an offer to come work for the NJCAA. So I had this ability to do something that I was passionate about, obviously, with equity, diversity, and inclusion, but then doing that organization with sports, and bridging both of those, which is my passion, was a no-brainer for me to accept that position. And so I've been here since June. We have hit the ground rolling with EDI work that we have been doing at the national office here in Charlotte, North Carolina, and looking forward and excited to some of the things that we're getting ready to do moving forward.
No, this is great, Kevin. So what do you see in equity, diversity, inclusion being some goals, and what's your focus going on the next year or 5 years with NJCAA and sports
Well,
for that matter?
from both sides of our sports divisions, from the traditional side as well as our esports side, is making sure that we are creating an environment where students feel accepted, regardless of their backgrounds, where they came from, what race, gender they represent. We want to make sure that what we are doing at the organization with all our colleges that we represent is providing students the opportunity to feel accepted. And they living and working and educating and playing in the inclusive environment. And so that's from the traditional sports side and from the esports side. And when I came on board here, looking at esports, I'm a big gamer. I like to play video games, but I didn't know how big esports was until I came on board here. To the extent that students have opportunities to get access to college and scholarships, right? And so one of the things that I've noticed when we started kind of looking into the numbers of those involved in esports, I know there's certain populations who didn't have access for whatever reason. That's one of the things I wanted to focus on. How do we get access to students of minorities? How do we bring access to women? And how do we bring more access to those in the LGBTQ community? And so myself and the team at the NJCAA and what we started to do is reach out to partners, organizations, esports organizations that specifically focuses with those populations. And now we're looking to build programming specifically to help impact those populations to increase access for minorities, women, and LGBT communities.
Is there any what's the outlook in data and numbers when it comes to diversity, equity, inclusion in sports compared to playing or scholarships, or between race and gender, and then higher like coaching? Like, what's the gap? Is there a gap when it comes to what people are in different roles depending on their race or gender?
Well, obviously, depending on what sport you play in the traditional sports, the major sports of football and basketball, that is pretty, uh, equitable across the board. It's dominant, there's African Americans in all different types of races in football and in basketball. Um, in other sports, not so much. You can look at golf and things of that nature where you can see a huge um, movement with the Caucasian white race in golf, as opposed to African Americans playing golf, right? And that's been something that's been throughout history in certain sports. When it comes to esports, well, like I said, that has been dominated. The numbers showing has been dominated by primarily, white male and Asian, populations, whereas women, African Americans, and even Latinos, those of color, than those in the LGBTQ community are not heavily represented as much as those of our white males and Asian counterparts. And so that's why I see the disparities when it comes to esports. It's a huge disparity, right? Which is why we need to do everything we can to increase those numbers, because what we do know, everybody loves to play video games. Those are, and when you're behind that screen, you're not a color, you're not a gender, you're just a remote control and a emoji or something, a little character. And that's who you are. And so this is something for me, which is easy to do. It's like there is no, sport out there that creates an opportunity that takes away the stigma of being a female or a Black male or a Latino male greater than esports, right? Because you're behind the screen, nobody sees that. They only see your talent. That's what's being represented, and that's what it's all about. So the discrepancies obviously is making sure that we provide access to every student who wants to play esports, traditional sports, and give them opportunities, because at the end of the day, it's not just a video game, but it's giving them opportunities to be educated, go to college, get a college degree, which can then help them, later on down the road in life.
I mean, well said. Behind that screen, no one knows how'd you say it? Doesn't matter what
Nobody
color you
knows
are.
what color you are, if
Yeah,
you're a male or female, you're just
right.
a remote control and an emoji. That's it.
Right. That's a really great way to put it. I mean, in the the positive side of everything, and then how we all to Danielle's point earlier about like, so let's just make two different teams, but that's not how we solve toxicity.
Yeah.
We solve toxicity by being allies and through leadership. Which I want to ask you, like, what kind of leadership do we need in our community, in our school spaces, in our churches, in our workspaces when it comes to how we can be champions for leadership and diversity of conclusion, as well as in the esports space and sports space.
Oh, thank you for asking that. I love leadership. I teach lessons. I've been teaching lessons on leadership for years. So I could talk for days on leadership. But for me, for tonight, if you take leaders and just use as an acronym, right? This is my kind of how I deal with leadership. But Mr. Flores said it correctly. The first step is to listen. And a leader, in EDI, the first thing you want to do is listen. You don't just listen with your ears, right? You listen with your eyes and your mouth as well. You listen with your eyes by studying and getting to learn about other people, right? And their likes and dislikes and their talents and what they like to do in their culture. You listen with your mouth by asking questions, not making assumptions to things that you don't understand in order to gain the education that you're looking for. And then obviously you listen with your ears by allowing other people to give you feedback and advice and take that advice from other people because we don't know everything. So that's that first step is to learn how to listen. The second step is to be an example for that second E. And when I say about being an example, I mean like what I say is what I do if I expect others to do it too, right? And so you have to step out and lead by example, being accountable as a leader, not just being accountable, when you're at work and at school, but being accountable when you're outside of the office or when you're outside of school. How do you speak? How do you carry yourself? How you represent yourself, your family, your community, the school, your organization. All that is being important. Being dependable, making sure people can rely on you, talk to you, speak to you, show up when you need to show up, and being dependable. Being equitable is the other E in leadership, making sure that you are someone who is about removing barriers. Equality is great and everybody wants that, but for me, equity is where it's at because we want to make sure we remove barriers so people can have access to the things that they want to have access to. And then being respectful, right? Learning how to respect everybody around us, even those that disrespect us. And when I say respecting somebody, that doesn't mean you got to go out and sing Kumbaya together, right? And buy each other Christmas cards and go out to lunch. But while you're in each other's presence, you respect each other. And if you disagree without being disagreeable. You do it with respect, right? And then the last one is a leader. It's the S. He or she, whoever that person is always willing to start over, knowing that in life we don't just stop because we got a certain amount of success, right? We built something and it's working, and then we say everything is great and we just gonna let everything go. We always try to reinvent ourselves. We always try to keep growing. We always try to keep moving forward and start over and find out what can I do next to better myself. So I think if you do those different things as a leader, then that's what qualifies you as being an EDI expert or doing something at EDI, not the color of your skin, not that you're a female qualifies you in that position, but the fact that you are a leader and you hold these certain traits close to your best and you try to demonstrate these skills on a consistent basis.
Kevin, you are right. You are a teacher and you do teach us stuff because I just sat back and soaked it all in, man. So I really appreciate what you're teaching us tonight because there's quite a few people in the chat and hopefully there's quite a few students from different colleges that are going to be watching the match tonight. And the information that we've heard tonight from you, Danielle, as well as Corporal Flores, has just been really, really beneficial and impacting, especially for me. And I think we should all keep learning, obviously. But walk me through some of this in this last part here. Walk me through what skills in leadership we can use to transfer into gameplay, whether it be sports or esports, vice versa. So what can we bring into our team and what can we take out of our team when it comes to anything leadership wise?
A leader never quits. My grandfather always made this statement to me. What do you do when your back is against the wall? And he would tell me, you turn around and tear that wall down brick by brick by brick, right? That life moves on. Obstacles stand still. That you have a choice. You can stand still with your obstacles, or you can move on with your life. And that's what a leader does. He finds a way to keep moving forward. You tear the bricks down if you have to, one by one by one. people are always going to put those obstacles up in front of you, right? And the moment you allow those obstacles to stop you, you give all those individuals who said that you cannot do it, that you won't make it, that you don't, you're not strong enough, you're not educated enough. You give all those fools to say a chance to say, I told you so. And so I always try to tell people as a leader, our job is to always move forward, never look back. You can't change your past no more than you can predict your future. You worry about today and you worry about tomorrow, which when you get here. So what you do today is going to impact what you do tomorrow, and what you did yesterday can learn, and you can learn from that. So you can move forward to the next day. And so I would say as a leader, you always want to move forward. You always try to find ways to remove those barriers that's in front of you. You don't give up, you don't quit. That's what I learned from my coaches playing sports. And I know that same kind of philosophy of never giving up, never quitting. I believe gamers are student athletes just as much as I was a student athlete playing football in college. I think gamers are also student athletes, and you take that same philosophy. If you want to be a gamer, nobody should stop you. Be the best gamer out there, move forward, and keep doing that every single day.
Love it. Thank you, sir. I really appreciate your time. It's been fun getting to talk to you over the past few months and learn from you.
Sir.
So I might bring you back here in a little bit, and we'll talk
Yep.
a little bit more in kind of a roundtable discussion, but I really appreciate your time. Thank you, Kevin, so much.
No problem.
All right, we'll talk to you soon. Okay, guys, so just quick reminder here, what we are doing is we have this webinar going on right now. We just heard from Danielle Johnson and Kevin Thomas, as well as Corporal Flores. Here in just a little bit, in about 20 minutes, the same channel you're on, twitch.tv/NJCAAE, is going to be having some gameplay of Valorant presented by the Army National Guard with the NJCAAE Fort Scott Community College versus Monroe Community College B team. That is right, the match of the week. It is happening, and it's Valorant. And I've played a few times of Valorant, but I'm actually in a tournament in Valorant in about a month, and it's going to be terrible. But Corporal Flores, let's talk a little bit about video games, and I think I might want to pull up your stream here in a minute from last night and walk me through this Call of Duty madness that we had. Let's ask this. Let me pull this up. What leadership skills were required in this streaming last night when you played, and who did you play with? Tell us all about it.
Well, leadership is obviously making sure you get a group of people together, right? So we obviously had to get all the talent right into the same Discord. So I was able to line that up, make sure everybody's good to go. I've actually interacted with all three of them individually previously. So we have a little bit of rapport there. Brought them in, we jumped in, and we started playing some games, essentially. When it comes to, obviously, in the matches themselves, it's kind of best to let the subject matter expert take the lead. So TP has been a Call of Duty champion. He's somewhat of a pro, right? Has won quite a bit, and he's pretty good at the game. So he's kind of running point for most of it.
Nice. Okay, so let's see. I'm going to I want you to run through with this with me. Let's pull this bad boy up here. And I kind of know what's going on because I played a few times. But I definitely need a little bit of walking through what's happening here. So let's see. We got, I think this is your gameplay at the moment. And let me turn this up. So that's you in the bottom corner there. And you got your 1 kill. I think this is towards one of the last few games. And so what's happening here?
It's got Lodi here.
Trying to remember exactly what happened here.
I played a lot of games.
Yeah, unfortunately, yesterday was a whole storyline of Call of Duty Warzone, right? Where we had, I remember this play now. But yeah, essentially yesterday ran into servers disconnecting or crashing, hackers, a little bit of everything. So we got the whole Warzone experience. But here I'm just moving up, backing up Teep. I believe Stone Mountain was actually blue if you look at the mini map on the top.
Crack on the wall.
And let's take a look here.
Blue.
Teep gets pushed there, so I knock him down.
Nice.
Or crack him. And I think there's two more pushing up, so I go ahead and throw a nade because there's no, obviously,
Wow.
Good nade.
Team damage there. And there I just wait. So you see Stone
Oh, yeah,
wrapping
shoot
around on the
that.
other side.
Yeah.
Actually, Stone is purple.
The truck pulling.
But yeah, I'm just covering essentially while I get a little bit of help, peeking my corners and
Go for the
whatnot.
res. You want to cut
Love
it?
it. Well, cool.
Yeah.
I definitely wanted to see a little bit of gameplay of what's going on with your awesome skills.
I'm a
Because
Rocket League main though. I'll say that.
a Rocket League main.
Yes.
That's awesome. Here, let me take myself out of view here. So, let's talk a little bit more about leadership
Mhm.
and how could we use leadership in video games?
Ooh, that's a big one.
Mhm.
So with that is, I believe what Mr. Kevin Thomas was saying is it's the same as being a student athlete. It's easy. It's very easy for people to say, oh yeah, there's leaders on every sport, right? Whether it's football, basketball, volleyball, track and field, whatever you call it, right? It's so easy to say, oh, there's leaders there. But whenever you look at esports, everybody looks at it all weird and it's just another sport, right? You have your in-game leads, who takes charge, who's making the calls, right? Who's saying, like, especially in Valorant, you have so many abilities going on. You need your shot caller saying, hey, they're going to plant at Alpha or Bravo or A or B or whatever the case is. So we need to adjust here, or they're not going there. You need that leader, that shot caller, the IGL, right? And it translates over to esports. So people just need to kind of get rid of that barrier in the center where they think that traditional sports and esports are different. I played tennis, cross country, football, all that stuff. So went pretty far in a lot of those too. And in that, every team had their own leader for different things.
Awesome. Well, let's bring in Danielle and Kevin again. Let's go ahead and see if we can really hash out some more conversation about everything. And hey, Kevin, Danielle, we had a lot of really good nuggets tonight. We had a lot of good nuggets. The chat's been pretty active, so thank you for that in Twitch. Danielle, coming back to you, throw me out some golden nuggets of leadership advice that we really need in this world, especially from you. Give us something amazing.
So back to what Kevin said of being inclusive. Never trust a group that doesn't include Black women.
Love it.
Because when Black women are fighting for something, they are fighting for everybody. And they are trying to include everybody. So if you are seeing a leadership group that does not include Black women, that is a group that you don't want to be a part of.
Perfect. The Women in Games International, they also have a I can't remember the terminology it's called, but no woman, no panel, I think is what the term may be. Mm-hmm. So I totally agree. Thoughts on that, Kevin?
I like those. Get wiki for Women in Games International. But she is completely correct. I think whenever I'm doing, particular topics around minorities and women in general, I talk about how, African American women from, you can go all the way back from slavery on up to today, how much they had to endure and what they had to go through. And so you see, if you learn that history, you see why they are the way they are today. That didn't happen overnight, right? And for me, being that leader as a person, for me, it's all about being an example. I will always use this with my students. I would say, Mr. Kevin don't drink and I don't smoke. So I don't tell my students to go out there and drink and smoke. And they'll say, well, Mr. Kevin, you don't tell us to stop cussing. I said, well, Mr. Kevin cuss. So therefore, I can give you an example. I teach you where not to cuss at. Don't cuss in front of grown-ups. Don't cuss in front of, you see somebody, you're in the locker room with your friends and you saying a cuss word, then, you have your fun. But so I'm always talking about examples and being an example as an individual and making sure that the people that's coming behind us, that's important. As an African-American male, I was always taught that from my grandparents, that blood in my body is not mine. That's been passed down for me from generation to generation. And I look at where I come from my parents who only had a high school GED. My grandfather only had a third grade education. And my great grandmother who never learned how to read and write. and I have a college education. You know, my next step is my daughter. So I had to be a leader for her. So that part of the stuff about being an example is not just for my students or the people I work with in the community. It's also making sure I'm being an example because I have somebody that's coming behind me trying to climb up this hill we call life. You know, always have these different challenges, and I have to be able to create an environment to make sure that her life is a little bit easier than her daddy's was growing up. The same way my parents did for me, and my grandparents did for them, and great grandparents. And so as leaders, we have to make sure we pave the road for those individuals trying to come behind us. And that's what being an example is all about.
Take on this, Corporal Flores.
Absolutely. So I've been very fortunate to have many strong female leaders that were, in charge of me. And even to this day, even my neighbor, she's she's a sergeant major. And my current sergeant major, she's actually African-American and female. And so throughout every mission that I've been on, whether it's, doing natural disaster, different crisis, prevention, or even just being in my regular unit, from the Army National Guard side, it's a little bit weird because for us, whenever we go to basic training or we put on our uniform, we're the same. It's a great equalizer. So whether you're, it doesn't matter what color you are, whether how long or how short your name is, ultimately it's the rank that you wear because of the work you've put in, and that warrants a certain level of respect. So it doesn't matter if you're, whatever color. For us, I've always appreciated that about, being the Army National Guard is you got that flag on your shoulder, and then you also have obviously your unit, and that's your family. And for us, you can be whatever. For us, we're brothers and sisters at the end of the day. So that's it. It's a little bit of a different perspective, but for me, I feel it as a great equalizer, and it's amazing because you're worth what you put in to your personal career and what you do to help others. Because when I say, oh, I work with Sergeant so-and-so, oh, I love her, she's amazing, she'll take care of you because she's a by the book leader that cares about her soldiers or whatever the case is. And that goes a long way. So that's something I absolutely love about, wearing the uniform myself.
Yeah. Thank you for that. I want to wrap up here. We got a couple minutes left and get some last bit of information. I just, since we're talking about leadership, we're talking about who we need in leadership to make some of these things, these changes, right? If I look at the numbers when it comes to, let's just talk about gaming esports. When I look at the numbers, gaming, 45% of gamers are identify as female. That's a really good number. However, as we know, in teams and pro teams and even things like I raised a bit of a stink the other day about the esports awards, how many men are being nominated compared to women.
White men.
Yes, white men. It's very true. So when we've got, and I think I shared this with you a couple of months ago, Kevin, like 84% or 83% of teenage African Americans are gamers, and only like 14% of minorities actually create games or have games out there that are created. So we have some disparaging issues when it comes to color and gender, race and gender. And yes, I'm a cis white male, and I don't get it. But that's the problem. People like me are ignorant. So they look like me, I should say. What do we need to change? What do we need to fix? What is this? What are we going to do this last 7 minutes, 6 minutes? You guys can leave us with when it comes to leadership and helping shape a culture in leadership in sports and esports.
Training. Bubba, when you gave me those statistics, when we spoke earlier, a couple of months back, how many people know those statistics? How many people see those, notice that, yes, you have all these African Americans who play games, but only 14% create games, right? You have all these African Americans who does play video games, but how many of those actually are in college, getting scholarships for those, but have access to competitive leagues and those types of things. So I think education for our leaders and doing education for people who make decision makers, the people, the funders, those people, the movers and shakers, is great to do that type of stuff, but it's educating them, and it's also educating parents about the benefits of what esports can provide. Because a lot of my parents think that, son playing video games is a problem, and it could be something that's great for them to actually utilize. So for me, it's education is number one.
As a leader, you form groups of people. People gravitate towards you and you find yourself in rooms making decisions. And before even starting conversations, but absolutely before making decisions, you should look around the room and ask yourself who's missing, who's not being represented. And if you can look around the room and absolutely tell who is not being represented, you need to find yourself another group. A lot of issues in education and in other areas come about because, we know some experts and we bring our experts in, but a lot of times our experts are, our friends in our network, we bring them in from our network, but our network isn't diverse. And so you need to have a diverse network. And if you don't, that is something that you need to make an effort at. You need to befriend women, LGBTQ, people of color in your workplace and in your, whatever you do outside of work. And if those things you do outside of work, everybody looks like you probably need to be majorly reevaluating your stance as a leader.
Or Flores?
So on this one, I actually consider myself very fortunate. Luckily, the team that I've worked with, and even in different missions I've been attached to, we've all been pretty multicultural from everywhere, right? Religion, race, sexuality even doesn't matter. We've have a little bit of everything, which is kind of unique. And again, it's back to, the work that you put in individually and mold yourself. So for us, it's a little bit different, but at the same time, we're a big melting pot. The way I like to describe, service in the Army National Guard or our population basically is if you got a big pie chart, right, of the entire population of the United States, it's like if you get that center of the donut, that's kind of essentially what you get in the Army National Guard. We're a direct, representation of the country, and we're all come from little diverse areas, but we meet up, we train, and we talk the same language, we do the same things, and we wear the same clothes, which at first I laugh sometimes because we're all walking around with the same OCP top, boots and cap and whatever. And it's like, oh, it's kind of silly, but at the same time, it unites us, it makes us the same. So whenever I go, I'm actually on a post right now. I go to the commissary to go shopping for food. People are in uniform. You see every culture, race, the whole nine. So everything, when you fill out a form, you see, Pacific Islander, Hispanic, white, whatever race, right? African American, we're all there. And it's actually beautiful. I really enjoy it. So I consider myself fortunate in that response.
Sure.
But it's something that I do try to emulate everywhere I go. Absolutely.
Love it. Well, I'm going to wrap us up here. Little quick story. Yes, leadership. Leadership in sports and esports. We all have seen many movies like Remember the Titans and other movies that really hone in on sports and leadership. I'll throw out a really fun story. And, I know there's folks in our circle who don't particularly want us using students as a way to tell a story, but this student really was a freshman or sophomore in a school up in New Jersey and was just shy and didn't know what to do and didn't know how to really social interaction was rough. And that first year they were playing esports, got into an esports club at their school, was rough. But by that next year, that kid was on stage in front of hundreds of people talking to kids about the benefits of his club and his group in the esports community that he had there. And so that's leadership that I think the phrase is probably thrust upon you, I think is greatness. Maybe there's probably some quotes we can flash up on the screen somewhere. But I do believe it's definitely a topic we need to spend more time on. And all the stuff we've been talking about with equity, diversity, inclusion, I know a couple of us get on different panels and talk about stuff, and we just need to keep talking about it for sure. Last thing, anything you guys want to plug? We got a minute left.
Leaders are not born. Leaders are not chosen. Leaders are developed. That's what I always say. Develop who you are.
You're in a position to change the problems that you see in the world. And if you think there's an issue, find some other people to get excited about it with you. Go change it.
My biggest thing would be if you see a problem, and if you're that kind of person, you see them everywhere. Start fixing one. Fix a small one that you can handle, and then move on to a bigger one and a bigger one. Get some help and take on the even bigger one. So just start is my biggest advice. Just start with a small one and then go from there.
Excellent, guys. Thank you so much for tonight's webinar. It was great. I wish we had another 3 hours to talk about stuff, but I really appreciate you all. Thank you so much. You guys can shut off your cameras, mute up. I'll catch up with you guys later. And thank you so much for being here. Hey, you guys, if you are just checking in, there's about to be a match played between Fort Scott Community College and Monroe Community College B team right here on twitch.tv/NJCAAE. It may be running a few minutes behind because we talked quite a bit, but you are definitely welcome, and please stick around because it is coming up next. We'll see you guys all later. Bye.
The news says Gen Z is struggling. I've got news for them.
I wait tables, but last week I built a field hospital.
I put out a forest fire.
I stopped 1,000 attackers.
And a natural disaster.
I've saved lives.
And led a team on patrol.
I serve.
Well, I go to school full-time.
While I work full-time.
The greater the challenge, the stronger we become.
What will you like today? Another Cloud 2 classic?
I'll stick with the usual. Maybe take a little bit off the sides.
Oh, that's fresh.
The HyperX Cloud 2 Wireless. Legendary comfort goes wireless.
Hey, watch your head.
A rogue virus. No jobs. Sky-high tuition debt. Life is trying to put our generation on the sidelines. But we refuse to just sit back and watch it pass us by. Instead, watch us fly ahead. Watch us overcome anything. Watch us rise. Watch us change our world. Watch us become the next greatest generation.
What sound experience would you like today?
I'll have the fantasy pack.
Good choice.
And could you make it a Cloud 2 wireless?
On his way, sir.
Sounds amazing.
The HyperX Cloud 2 Wireless. Legendary comfort goes wireless.
We understand an upside-down world, but they're writing us off before we get to the starting line. A stalled generation? Who do you think is gonna fix all this? We will, because our future is the future. The next greatest generation is now.
Hey man, I just can't find a comfortable headset. I mean, I've tried everything. Literally everything.
Sheesh, my brother. I got you.
The HyperX Cloud 2 Wireless. Legendary comfort goes wireless.
That is comfortable.
The news says Gen Z is struggling. I've got news for them.
I wait tables, but last week I built a field hospital.
I put out a forest fire.
I stopped 1,000 attackers.
And a natural disaster.
I've saved lives.
And led a team on patrol.
I serve.
Well, I go to school full time.
While I work full time.
The greater the challenge, the stronger we become.
What will you like today? Another Cloud 2 classic?
I'll stick with the usual. Maybe take a little bit off the sides.
Oh, that's fresh.
The HyperX Cloud 2 Wireless. Legendary comfort goes wireless.
Hey, watch your head.
A rogue virus. No jobs. Sky-high tuition debt. Life is trying to put our generation on the sidelines. But we refuse to just sit back and watch it pass us by. Instead, watch us fly ahead. Watch us overcome anything. Watch us rise. Watch us change our world. Watch us become the next greatest generation.
What sound experience would you like today?
I'll have the fantasy pack.
Good choice.
And could you make it a Cloud 2 wireless?
On his way, sir.
Sounds amazing!
The HyperX Cloud 2 Wireless. Legendary comfort goes wireless.
We understand an upside-down world, but they're writing us off before we get to the starting line. A stalled generation? Who do you think is gonna fix all this? We will, because our future is the future. The next greatest generation is now.
Hey man, I just can't find a comfortable headset. I mean, I've tried everything. Literally everything.
Sheesh, my brother. I got you.
The HyperX Cloud 2 Wireless. Legendary comfort goes wireless.
That is comfortable.
The news says Gen Z is struggling. I've got news for them.
I wait tables, but last week I built a field hospital.
I put out a forest fire.
I stopped 1,000 attackers.
And a natural disaster.
I've saved lives.
And led a team on patrol.
I serve.
Well, I go to school full time.
While I work full time.
The greater the challenge, the stronger we become.
What will you like today? Another Cloud 2 classic?
I'll stick with the usual. Maybe take a little bit off the sides.
Oh, that's fresh.
The HyperX Cloud 2 Wireless. Legendary comfort goes wireless.
Hey, watch your head.
A rogue virus. No jobs. Sky-high tuition debt. Life is trying to put our generation on the sidelines. But we refuse to just sit back and watch it pass us by. Instead, watch us fly ahead. Watch us overcome anything. Watch us rise. Watch us change our world. Watch us become the next greatest generation.
What sound experience would you like today?
I'll have the fantasy pack.
Good choice.
And could you make it a Cloud 2 wireless?
On his way, sir.
Sounds amazing.
The HyperX Cloud 2 Wireless. Legendary comfort goes wireless.
We understand an upside-down world, but they're writing us off before we get to the starting line. A stalled generation? Who do you think is gonna fix all this? We will, because our future is the future. The next greatest generation is now.
Hey man, I just can't find a comfortable headset. I mean, I've tried everything. Literally everything.
Sheesh, my brother. I got you.
The HyperX Cloud 2 Wireless. Legendary comfort goes wireless.
That is comfortable.
The news says Gen Z is struggling. I've got news for them.
I wait tables, but last week I built a field hospital.
I put out a forest fire.
I stopped 1,000 attackers
And a natural disaster.
I've saved lives.
and led a team on patrol.
I serve.
Well, I go to school full time.
While I work full time.
The greater the challenge, the stronger we become.
What will you like today? Another Cloud 2 classic?
I'll stick with the usual. Maybe take a little bit off the sides.
Oh, that's fresh.
The HyperX Cloud 2 Wireless. Legendary comfort goes wireless.
Hey, watch your head.
A rogue virus. No jobs. Sky-high tuition debt. Life is trying to put our generation on the sidelines. But we refuse to just sit back and watch it pass us by. Instead, watch us fly ahead. Watch us overcome anything. Watch us rise. Watch us change our world. Watch us become the next greatest generation.
What sound experience would you like today?
I'll have the fantasy pack.
Good choice.
And could you make it a Cloud 2 wireless?
On his way, sir.
We continue here with Valorant. Week number 3. My name is Vincent. I'm joined here on the desk by Jag. Jag, how are you doing today?
I'm doing great. This is the first time we get to be here at the NJCAAE. It's an amazing time, and we've got a great game to bring for you tonight. A battle of two undefeated teams early in the season. I mean, what more could you want, Vincent?
Literally unstoppable. This is the best case scenario. I don't know what else to tell you, but yeah, no, excited to be here. Excited to see what these two sides, Monroe Community College, 2-0. You said undefeated. They have an extra win going up against the Fort Scott side of the Gaming Greyhounds. They just at that 1-0 record, but again, you can't beat who you haven't played. So, you know, we won't hold that against them. What I will say though, Jag, we got some info. We got some information about these two teams. Why don't you break it down for us?
Yeah, we'll start with Monroe first because they do have that 2-0 start, but they're actually 4-0 including the preseason, so they have not lost a game in quite a while. Their last loss here was in the playoffs of last season in that second round last season. Had a pretty good run, only lost 4 games throughout that. And that roster that's coming back is virtually the exact same roster that they had in last season. So they have a lot of synergy. They've had a lot of playtime together, and they have a map in this pool that they like a lot. It's going to be Icebox, which is the third map. And I was actually surprised they didn't choose Ascent because that's the other map they told us that they liked. But we'll see what they bring out. They said they really like the double duel setup, so we should be expecting a lot of that tonight. On the other side, the Gaming Greyhounds, they had a bit of a difficult season last time around, 2-7, but now they're starting off on the right foot. They feel pretty good. They've added some new pieces to this roster, including Sui, who is an immortal player, so maybe one of the highest ranked players competitively in this tournament, in this league. And they told us they really like Icebox as well, so both these teams feeling the same about that. And last but not least, they really have a set composition that they like to run, so I'm assuming we'll see it a lot tonight. It's the Raze, the Jet, a Sky or Killjoy, Omen, and Cypher, so we'll be seeing a lot of that from that side, I'm expecting.
Yeah, I mean, listen, what I'm seeing and what I'm hearing from you, Jack, you know, Monroe, they have so much experience. They really are coming in here as a set squad that have had an entire year together to kind of work out the kinks, figure out problems, and by the way, already made a playoffs appearance. So that kind of shows you where they were starting at. Their starting point very strong, coming up against the roster with the Gaming Greyhounds that really has yet to prove themselves, but are on the come up. They're looking for that opportunity to play against a team like Monroe that can really test them and really show what they're worth. So a win today here for the Greyhounds would be fantastic. Would be a fantastic showing for them as they move forward. It would really show that they can bare their teeth and grind out those victories where and when it's most appropriate.
Yeah, I absolutely agree with that sentiment. I mean, this is basically a proving grounds right now for the Grands. We'll see if they're able to get up to the task. And what we talked about earlier is that it's only a 1-0 record because they've only had one game this season. They had a bye week. We'll have to see if that affects them. Sometimes a bye week can be great. It lets you rest a little bit. Sometimes you get more scrims in because you don't have to worry about a game. Other times you can lose some momentum. So if they win the first week and they have the second week off, maybe some of that trust, that synergy that they've built up over time, it just fades because they don't have that same play time that they'd have otherwise. So there's a lot of different factors here, but the one thing stands out to me at the end of the day. It's a bit of a David versus Goliath. Monroe, they're the Goliath. Gaming Greyhounds, they are the David in this scenario.
Yeah, it is always interesting how that bye week will affect everyone and how it will affect individuals. Like you said, a good point I think is you know, does that mean they took a week off? Well, you never know, or maybe that means that you took the week scrimming. It's always a big up in the air moment. And so with Monroe coming in with a lot of steam in their tank with that 4-0 record, I think that maybe could feel a little bit worrying. But the good news for Scott is, you know, they've known that they're going to be doing this, right? They were aware. It wasn't as if they you know, didn't know a game was upcoming, so they've had plenty of time to kind of prep and get ready. And the other thing that is interesting, should we head to a map 3, you talked about Icebox and how it was a little interesting that Monroe didn't really go with Ascent, which is their other preferred map. But even though it was available, what's interesting is that Fort Scott also really do enjoy some Icebox. So if we get to a third map, that could potentially be the undoing of the likes of Monroe. You should have maybe gone with the Ascent, maybe should have done a little bit more research, find out what the Greyhounds like. And well, it turns out they're big fans of Icebox as well. So if we get that head-to-head at the end, I definitely think there could be some fireworks going off.
Yeah, and we can check out that map pool right now. We've got 3 maps coming at you. We already talked about the last one in the series, the tiebreaker, if we get to it, but we got 2 before we get there. And honestly, I'm a huge fan of this map pool. There's no Ascent, like we said, which makes me happy because I feel like that's always the go-to in any level of competitive Valorant. But Breeze, you don't see that very often, but it is going to be the first map of this series. It was picked by the Greyhounds, which is not a map they had suggested, but Haven was banned out, so maybe this is their go-to after that. That Haven is a map they said that they liked very much so. And then it's going to be Monroe picking Bind a little bit later. That's their second map in the series. And the teams that didn't pick the maps, they're going to be starting on defense because if you're not in Haven, why would you start an attack?
Yeah, and well, the other thing that I want to mention here, Breeze, we did get some potential favorite picks from some of these players. I don't see a single Viper on the Monroe side. Now, that's not to say that they can't play it. I don't doubt. I mean, they play Icebox. Surely they have a Viper player, but Viper is a big key to the likes of Breeze. So if we have the likes of you know, Fort Scott, they enjoy a bit of Viper on there, and Mr. Mold Dog, big fan. I think that could be an interesting difference maker if we get down to it. Maybe comfortability on that what it turns out to be the main controller role over on Breeze because of how wide open it is. It's really interesting, but we are getting ready to get underway here with Breeze, which, like you mentioned, going to be our first map. We would head to Bind next. That the pick of Monroe, like we were talking about. But with that agent selection underway, and Jag, tell me what you're seeing as we take a look.
I hope not a Euro. I feel like it's probably a bit of a bait. We'll see if that comes through. I'd be very surprised if it did. I kind of want to see a KO here, honestly. I feel like KO is actually really, really good here. I feel like his second best map is Ascent because his 0 points can go over, you know, basically any surface. So if there's an open area, you can throw it over a wall. As long as there isn't a roof, you can get a great suppression. You can find out who's in the area. And we might have one coming out from Spycrab. You talked about that Viper and the importance it could have in this series. Already, it is going to be locked in on the side of the Greyhounds. We'll have to see how that pick ends up being. Not a lot else locked in just yet besides a Jet, so I'm wondering what's going to happen here.
Yeah, and well, it is going to be Megalodon on the Viper rather than Mr. Muldog as well. So there are two controllers kind of that play on this this gaming Greyhound side, and so that obviously showing up can be big. A KO here for Spycrab, another interesting decision. Agent. What do you think about the KO? Is it good? And oh my goodness, that Yoru isn't a meme.
That Euro isn't. I mean, I was just saying that I think the Euro is a good pick, or not the Euro. I think the KO is a good pick. I don't know about this Euro pick. That is something out of left field. I feel like Yoru in one way is a bit underrated because his basement is so low that's really hard to play him efficiently. But I do feel like his ceiling is actually pretty high if you use him in the right way. But the question is, can you use him in the right way? He's a bit of a flanker. I would say he kind of takes over a Jet role, but then you have a Jet on your side. You also have a Ray, so this is a triple duelist setup that's coming out on the side of the Greyhounds, which makes sense because they're on attack first. They're going to be super aggressive. On the other side, for Monroe, a bit more passive with the Sage, with the Killjoy. And we haven't even talked about this. I have not seen a breach in like months, and yet here is one right in front of our eyes.
Yeah, and let me add on to that. I did some EU stuff a little bit ago, a couple weeks back, and they're a big fan of Breach over there in the European side of Valorant. But we saw a breach at a high level on this map in particular, and there was a lot of discussion around it. Sky is just so good here. The fact that you would swap in a breach as opposed to that Sky is a hard sell for me.
Yeah, even with the Sky nerfs, even though she has one less guiding light, even though it's not as effective, her healing is just so good. Her Trailblazer is so good. She just has so much CC, and her kit is so diverse. But Elmo going to be the one who's caught out first here.
Indeed. And there is that entry, the duelist role that you were talking about. I mean, hey, Mr. Muldog can do it. That's great. And going to get out for free as well with the teleport. So as Zay comes back in, the help of a Jut to try and re-entry. 3-on-3. Low HP for some of these players on the defense, but to dislodge Spycrab is a good start. The problem is there is a whole lot more left to do, and low HP for every defender. Mr. Muldog tapping away in the help of Megalodon. They've got them all. Everyone going down. That's the triple for that Yoru. You ask the questions, is the Yoru going to be viable? Well, if they play it like that, I guess you can't argue.
3-0 gets the spike plan as well, so very close to their ultimate, which can be great for them to get around the map undetected. One thing I want to update the viewers on is, unfortunately, we have gotten a bit of misinformation, and we are going to correct that right now. This actually is the B team coming out from Monroe as well, so this is not the roster from last year. It's a bit different than the one we were expecting. This is mostly all freshmen, which is why the names are a bit different than what you and I were expecting, Vincent. So this matchup that we thought might be one-sided, it's going the other way early on, and it might continue to go that way.
Indeed it might, you know, surprises abound. And, well, speaking of which, the Marshall, lovely weapon to play with, particularly round number 2 on this map. And we can see that Viper, the toxic screen, already coming to fruition on the B side as Reflex Finest waiting to thread the needle here in mid and try and find some players on the rotate. Speaking of those rotates, Elmo and co. going to be rotating, but it's a different direction. Not going to run into Reflex. It's going to be running into someone else. As I say that, it's actually Anime Cat Girl who does run into Reflex, and it looks like Elmo going to just wait for some exits as Suey gets aggressive to dispatch the rest of the defense.
And this has been a bit of a thunky round because if you looked at the chat, there was actually disconnection. So Elmo was essentially the last member of this squad for quite a bit, not able to pick up the Spectre. It's a 1v4. They're able to get 2 on the way out. That's actually pretty good for a round where only the Greyhounds could buy, but not enough. I think with this DC, we might see a pause coming in. Hopefully that player is able to get back in. Yep, there is going to be the pause. So early on, this Breeze has been quite the experience, I would say. 2 rounds in, not what we expected at all. And it is going to be the bonus round now for Monroe, so this might be a chance for them to, get their breath, catch it, get some good guns, get the Vandals, get the Phantoms, but already not what we expected from them.
Yeah, and just to reiterate, by the way, on the way that that whole situation went down about the misinformation and deal. So Monroe currently 1-1. That was part of what we didn't quite have correct there, which means that they do have a loss on the season, and so our expectations maybe a little bit adjusted here, Jag. I think we can say for sure a bit of a closer matchup, I think, is what that actually turns into, which means good news for us. We get to cast maybe a little bit better game. We were expecting maybe a little bit of a one-sided affair, but rather it is more than likely going to be a bit closer. And as this timeout ticks away, hopefully we've got everybody back in server and everybody going good, but don't quite know if that's the case or if we'll get another pause coming in.
It looks like both teams are on the same page here. You may see a timeout actually come out from the Greyhounds. They might try to burn one of their own to try to help out their opponents, as right now this Sage is AFK, disconnected from the lobby. Unfortunately, it does not come through, so this is going to be a 4v5. Like you said, this is probably going to be a closer matchup now because of, the different squad, not the squad we were expecting, and that means it could end up going to 3 maps when all is said and done. We'll to see how the rest of Breeze pays out, but already a great squad, and that's going to be the first kill on to Judd.
Fantastic opening, and this follow-up is there for good measure. Backside, they're attempting to do some work, was Enemy Catgirl with that Marshall, but, Marshals, they are effective, but sometimes you get overwhelmed, and overwhelmed they are. In the back is 2 left alive. It's really just 1 because of that DC, and that's Zay the Vampire. He's got a frag there with the SMG. Unfortunately, that SMG not going to do very much from that range against a Vandal, and that's what Sui has, dispatching them. And the follow-up, Tomon, unfortunately, still AFK for now as they've been DC'd. Hopefully we'll get that sorted soon, but it's a 3-0 start here for the Gaming Greyhounds.
Yeah, and I think also there was a bit of a force on that second round coming out from Monroe, so that should have been a full buy for them, but you saw they had to commit to a Marshall, they had to commit to some Spectres because they tried to go for a bit of a cheeky play in the round before, and unfortunately that is going to set them back quite a bit, and especially when you're down a person, having equal weaponry is really not going to get the job done unless you have a great defense, which without that Sage is really hard. I don't really see Sage a lot on Breeze, but I do see why it would be impactful. You can kind of cut off sight lines and entry points as for the attack if you're able to do it right on the archways for either point, because the slow orbs to stop them, delay them from going in. But without those abilities, it's just kind of free real estate right now for the Gaming Greyhounds, and because of that, they do have this 3-0 lead, and now this weaponry they have is going to be even better than what they started with.
Yeah, on the conversation of Sage, the attack, I think that becomes a little bit of a liability, but on the defense, you play it around that pipe area, towards mid. That could be very, very decent. The wall obviously covers off that whole angle, and the slow orbs can be very effective in there, but yeah, it's just that one big area that it really is the most effective, so I'll be interested to see how that's being utilized. But speaking of ultimates here, Jag, we do have that dimensional drift, the Yoru that we've been talking up so often, ready to go here on Mr. Muldog.
Yeah.
They use it immediately too, going to try to get some scouting information. I'm not sure if much is going to be found here. They didn't really go that far. They just kind of went up mid to clear that out, and now there is an approach here on B, but they're going to fall. But on the other side, A is being taken over.
I mean, more like Sui's taking over, as it's a 1-2-3 frag round for Sui. Still 15 bullets in the chamber after 3 kills, by the way. Swats out one of the remaining couple of players, but gonna have to fall back. That's a very well-placed 0 point, but unfortunately, it is going to be Tomon who wins the duel. A secondary duel also being won. This is now a 2-on-2 with Sui gone down. Tomon has an idea. Knows, but no! Peeks without the gun out. That's a no-no. Got a little bit scary, but either way, the retake still forthcoming. This was a guaranteed round, and now it's a bit scary. First duel, missed. Reflex Finest falls. And now 1 versus 1 on this site. Megalodon, she tries, but she's not able to connect. Zay the Vampire with the double in order to get back on the site. 3 on the round, and the defuse comes in. A little bit close, but that's okay.
And man, were they missing Tomon. I mean, look at the impact this stage has. Immediately gets 2 right off the bat after the spike is planted, despite being down quite a few members there. And I think there's a bit of a misplay on the side of the Gaming Greyhounds. That Viper, Megalodon, could have pushed in, could have taken that trade, could have traded 1 for 1. Instead, tries to back up, tries to play point, tries to use the Poison Orb, and instead ends up paying with their life as well as the round. Finally, we're going to see Monroe get on the board, and now with everyone back in lobby, their economy is looking good. And it looks like we might be just restarting this map completely from what I'm being told from production.
Yeah, that may indeed come through, but we'll confirm that as soon as we get the information. Regardless, an opening towards a nice one indeed, but it's traded back out. Still an advantage towards the offense as the Gaming Greyhounds take advantage of their better positioning and take advantage. And it looks like indeed we are going to get that reset. As I see a bunch of disconnections, so if you'll bear with us as we get that going through. This is a incorrect scoreline. Will be starting back over from the start, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, it looks like that is what's going to happen, and this has been a very interesting, series of events, I would say, but that's just what happens sometimes. With DCs, it is good though. I would say that we're going to see them back at full force at the beginning of the series, because that disconnect happens during round 2, I believe, not during round 1, or maybe actually I think it was in the middle of round 1. So that pistol round maybe could have gone a bit different when all was said and done. Now these teams, they're going to be back on equal footing and kind of give it a go once more. I'm wondering, we'll see if production can clarify this for us. I'm wondering if they have to do the exact same draft, or maybe if we'll see some swaps come out.
Yeah, I'd imagine they'd have to go back towards the same drafts. That's a fantastic point. Didn't even think about it, Jag. But I mean, just for competitive integrity, that would seem the likely case. Especially you try something that didn't work the first time around, and you're like, well, let's just go for something different. Fair enough, you can go for a different strat, but surely you would have to go for the same agent selections. But either way, we'll see shortly. No word from production on that note from our admin team, but regardless, it'll be starting back up here soon is what I have been told. So either way, Jack, from what you saw at the very beginning, we saw a Gaming Greyhounds side take control on the attack pretty dominantly. It was actually a lot of Mr. Maldog and Sui, the 2 big fraggers stepping up. What can Monroe do to sort of remedy that situation? Now, again, fairness, they had a DC for most of it.
Yeah, I think, now that you have your Sage back, the Sage Wall, the Slorbs that we talked about, they're back in play, so you can disrupt the attacking side. What you want to do on the side of the Gaming Greyhounds is you've got 3 duels, you just want to run in. You just want to take space, and you want to force Monroe to back all the way up. When you have a Sage, when you have a Breach, you have to use your abilities early on to deny that approach to even happen in the first place. We saw that was impossible. Emo fell really early on in that first round, wasn't able to use any of those Breach abilities. So just when you're dead, you can't really do anything. So sometimes it's better to just use those a little bit earlier than you want to, just to disrupt any sort of attack, because as a defender, you have to split yourselves, on that pistol round, and the attackers, they will not. So they will go in usually with a full head of steam with a 5-person stack.
Yeah, that's just it. You got to utilize it your advantages the best way that you can. And you're right. Whenever you're going up against a large push, i.e., a 5-person push, it can be difficult to defend. But we're headed back in, and indeed, we are getting word that the agent selection is going to need to be the exact same. So we should have that locked in pretty quickly. That's good to note. I mean, obviously, competitive integrity and the such. Want to keep things as fair as you can, considering the unfortunate DC situation that occurred.
Yeah, I think the Greyhounds might be having a little fun with it. All of them have Jet on their screen, Just take a breather. You got 60 seconds, why not? Enjoy yourself while you're trying to figure out how do you get to the same lead that you just had without, that DC kind of helping you along the way. I mean, you and I are in agreement. Like, this match we expect to be much closer than originally anticipated now that we have those updated rosters, now that we have those updated season records so far throughout this season. Only 3 weeks in. This is the 3rd week to be exact. And now as these picks once more are on the board, I mean, it's basically it's a whole new game. It's a whole new world, Vincent, and we'll have to see if the Gaming Greyhounds can keep up what they had, or if Monroe is able to get to a better start than they were that time.
Yeah, here's a real question here, Jack. Do you try to outbrain Monroe here, or do you just hit him with the exact same pistol round? Do you big brain it, or do you just roll out with the confidence play?
Honestly, I feel like this is a bit of a mental game, and I was thinking the exact same thing before the draft happened. Like, what do you do right now as an attacker? You've kind of already shown your hand early on, and I feel like the power move is actually to go for the same play because they're not gonna be expecting it. It's like, why would you do the same thing twice? It looks like it's not gonna be the same approach. You can see they're probably gonna take that zip line up and try to kind of take more of that A heaven space, but does look like it's going to be an A approach nonetheless. Maybe a split approach. We'll have to see how that ends up being. They're also sending the raise to mid, so it is a bit of a different look, but at the end of the day, it looks like they're going to the same site as the first time.
Yeah, that's slightly different, sort of maybe that 3-way split, but actually, I mean, it's looking just as if there's going to be 3 people entering towards the main entrance, 1 towards mid, 1 in towards tube. So an interesting decision nonetheless is to get back on their way here. Damage being done, and in fact, damage done and taken out is the Vampire, as the opening is there. Dula on the site, gonna try and deny that plant. Does in fact do just that. Overheal is good on the overheal, and unfortunately, big missed shots from Spycrab allows for the overheal to come back through the double kill, but now it's Abdullah left alone. 1v2, half health for the Jet, a lot more for Mr. Moldog, who's the one to take the duel and take the victory. This one a little less clean than before, but it's still the Greyhounds to take the pistol.
Tui, that is a lot of confidence in yourself to go for that buy early on, get the most expensive sidearm in the game. It's 1 shot, 1 kill for most events if you're able to get a headshot, and body shots, it's a little bit more dangerous, but regardless, they take over the point. They're able to survive long enough for the rotation to come out from the last member alive on their team. The Greyhounds, like I said, are able to get that first round win, and now the victors go to the spoils. They're going to get 2 Marshals and 3 Spectres.
I talked about it in our first go around, but I'll mention it one more time. Man, these Marshals are deadly on Breeze. These long sight lines just to open everything up. And we can see Zay being pressured out and taken out. And that's him on with it. Nice kill there on Mr. Moldog. Abdullah with the 1 frag trying to dismiss away, but he's going to get taken out for the trouble. These are some good trades on what is ostensibly just a pistol round.
Yeah, this is really good, though. Enemy Cacker are going to be caught out a little bit. Very weak now they're the last member standing. I don't think they can get the job done. If they could get 1 more, that'd be great. They can't. And I just want to go back to the point you made at the beginning of the round. These Marshals are so effective because you're assuming that the side that loses, in this case Monroe, they're not going to be committing too much. They're probably not going to be getting armor. So that Marshal, like an operator, usually going to be 1 shot, 1 kill, unless it is a leg shot. So there you see them take space. They take angles. They're able to take over the point, but it was very clean overall for Monroe in a round where they were saving. They get 3 exit frags and all said and done. Now Greyhounds, they're wondering what they should do, if they should try to buy fully, if they can, and they won't. and it's going to be a bit of an advantage in this round going the way of Monroe. But just as I say that, actually, they sold and then bought mostly Spectres.
I think that's probably the right decision long term. You want to make sure you can buy into that next round, right? This is a bonus no matter how you slice it. So either way, good or bad decision, we'll have to see what the outcome is. As it's some mid presence being made here by the defense and punished by Sui. Maybe not the best of shots, but they certainly were effective. Bladestorm going to come out in return. This time, that's the first ultimate and connecting the headshot. The secondary as well. Sui with 2, 3 on the round as they try to recover some weaponry. Pushing forward with this Bladestorm, wanting more to Sui, making the quad. Do you get the ace? Tomon, the last alive, and there it is. Sui, the immortal player here for the Greyhounds, popping off and taking names.
This is what you expect from an immortal player. That was just a one-man carry there. The Bladestorm was perfectly timed. Shot after shot landed, and I do not see a lot of aces that early on, but oh my goodness, was that amazing. Now that bonus round doesn't go the way of Monroe, what do they do here? It looks like they are gonna go for that full buy. Like you said, now they're able to save it for a round. Their side, it looks like Greyhounds for the most part, they're just gonna keep what they had. They're gonna keep their economy pretty healthy overall.
So deadly losing a round in that way on, what is a gun round, right? For the defense here, Abdul using the Empress early, trying to contest, but it's on towards the site for the Greyhounds, and in fact, it's Megalodon. She's utilized the pit there, and Sui around the edge has dispatched the Empress with ease. Now a big advantage plus the pit means that this retake is all but over. As I say that though, enemy Kakarot with a frag, Megalodon looks for the trade, and it's quickly become a 1-on-9 impossible scenario as Megalodon just finishes things off with ease. That's a great round again from the Greyhounds.
They're just looking unstoppable. Now this economy that was looking all right, was able to buy 2 rounds in a row for the side of Monroe, cannot. They're going to have to go for some Marshals, some Spectres, some Ghosts, and hope for the best. They are usually finding at least 1 or 2 trades here and there, so it's not like this is flawless by any means from the Greyhounds, but it has been disruptive, it has been aggressive, and these defensive characters that have been used, these agents, the Sage, the Killjoy, and the Breach on the side of Monroe, they just have not been enough to stop these pushes.
Yeah, and on the concept of that breach, Elmo, I'm sure a fantastic breach, but I think we're seeing some of the weaknesses of that agent in particular on a map like this. It's hard to anticipate where to put the likes of a fault line. It's a very small area of effect on a very big map.
Yeah, and I mean, you got to really use it at an entrance point, and if this mid take keeps happening, how can you really anticipate that as a breach? You're going to put yourself in harm's way.
Indeed, speaking of harm's way, it's Anime Catgirl and Abdullah who live in harm's way and now die in that same area. As Sui looks for an entry onto the site, gonna make some footsteps there with the help of the I'm saying that Elmo coming around back. This is a great find, actually, and a nice little teleport from Mr. Maldog was a good idea, but it doesn't quite hit its mark. It's going to be the ultimate coming out to an attempt, but with a nice blind. Unfortunately, it's Sui to find the frags. That was a good attempt there in the back from the breach. I thought that could have come to fruition, but unfortunately that blind just hit him at the worst time.
It was a good rolling thunder, was able to knock up one on point, but where's the follow-up? The problem with that approach is you're coming from different sides. You have to run in, you have to go for the pincer approach much quicker there. They aren't able to. The sightlines are covered still pretty well by the Greyhounds. They're able to find out where that breach is because they know that someone just died there. And that flank, it does get value, but it's not enough. Again, trades, there are plenty, but it's still a 5-0 right now. And that's going to be Sui just opening things up.
Sui is the opener, as we see a dimensional drift here from Mr. Muldog. And, well, let's see, information found, not so much. But yeah, gonna elect to go backwards this time. But that's a lot of information gathered. As you can see, Reflex Finest is pushed all the way up off the back of it. And the plant going down over at A, where nobody sits, as it's a 5 versus 4 for the retake.
How do you approach this? Elmo gonna be taken out, so not able to check that corner. You have the res, but it's a 5v2. Do you even try to invest it? You have the Blade Storm too, but it's not worth it. This res is going to be saved for another round.
Yeah, it's hard to try and argue an investment. Poor Tomon has just been the 1v5er this game. You gotta feel for the guy because he's just walking into impossible situations. As the B anchor there, you're just like, okay, all right, I'll just try my best. 1 versus 3, 4, 5, whatever it is.
Yeah, and we did see them pop off quite a bit before the restart. They came back in, and it kind of seems like they were the spark that was needed by this Monroe side. But Stewie, I mean, look at this: 16-1-3. This is an immortal player at work, and what I believe is about a flat average. So still,
decent,
higher than the average player in Valorant, but it's it's just a skill gap at some point.
I mean, listen, I can say better than me, but those shots, they are better than anyone else in the server right now. And Stewie opens up, Blade Storm moving as he looks for more.
Careful.
It's Anime Catgirl on the other side. It's a battle of the Blade Storms, and there, the victory for Anime Catgirl. And the trade up. Here is another Viper Spit from Megalodon. And she puts it down. Unfortunately, everyone falls for the defense. Reflex Finest and Mr. Maldog in on the action. Megalodon playing around the Toxins finds success. And that's a 2 apiece for the Viper and the Yoru, respectively.
I mean, this is just so difficult. We thought, man, this might be closer than expected. And, that prophecy that we had, it's kind of getting thrown out the window. There's just a hard carry. His name is Sui. 2 deaths does end up falling in that last round, but still, this economy is just flawless.
Oh, no.
I mean, look at this. Everyone has above 4,000 credits going into this already, so even if they did somehow lose this, they can keep buying for another round or two.
Forte confirming secret agent status at the 07 mark. That's unfortunate. But, well, I guess to be fair, everyone's at the 07 mark currently, if you're on the Monroe side, at least on the scoreboard. And this is a great timing, Sui. It's just Tomon looking the wrong direction. 1, 2, a third for good measure. And Sui looks for the 4th. He's on fire and absolutely electrifying the server right now.
It could be another ace. It is going to have to be a bit of a more Herculean effort, I would say, from Sui, because it is a 3v2. There is a lockdown as well, so we'll see if that Killjoy decides to invest it. It looks like Zay is rotating, maybe trying to find a position to put it down. Now, actually going to open the door and immediately peek out of it. Does know where Sui is, though.
What a nice shot there by Sui as well. Hits the dink and the follow-up.
It's
There's
the
that
ring!
ace! You talked about it. That prophecy is indeed coming true. And the double ace in 8 rounds for Sui is on line 22-2.
Oh my goodness, this is...
ludicrous?
Yeah, ludicrous. I mean, what more can you say? Sui just taking things into their own hand. And I feel for Zay there because they actually had a really good angle for the headshot.
Yeah.
Saw Sui's head peeking out just a little bit after they opened up the door, but didn't take the shot. That slight hesitance really impacted that round. Lockdown ultimate, though, was kept, so there is utility for these defenders. The resurrection as well.
And like you say, it was good game sense from Zay to try that angle, but there's another gone player, Elmo, trying to get aggressive, and you can understand, right? What they've tried isn't working. So now there's desperation here from Monroe Colleges. They look to do anything, something at all to catch off guard these players, but it's just not working. As Megalodon dispatches one of the 2 remaining. Mr. Maldog to get rid of Abdullah, but in another flawless victory, what more do we expect?
I mean, there, if Abdullah can maybe find out the race, find out Finest, that would be good. Finest was really weak and just hiding behind a box, but instead try to take point instead of trying to go through the longer route to get to B, and because of that, they don't find anything. I mean, there, it's a save round. You only have a sheriff, so there isn't really much to be lost overall. I think the biggest thing is you have to find a round somewhere. You have to build up your economy somewhere, because every round you're buying, the next round you're saving, because you aren't able to find enough kills, you aren't able to find enough wins to sustain long enough with your economy.
I mean, at this point, the economy is almost irrelevant. I'd say just find a round victory, right? I mean, That's got to be, the first thing on the mind of these players. But unfortunately, Sui is finding a double player opening. And the good news is Simon trading and the res, but that res is just not in the right position. It's opened up both the res player and Toman to taking a death. And what a fantastic shot there from Reflex Finest. Gets blinded by the Leer, but knows where the peak comes through, and it's a headshot anyway.
Yeah, great focus there. Great, I would say, perseverance there by Reflex Finest. Just holding their ground, knows exactly where their opponent is, and is able to just keep the angle they had, find the shots they need. And it's a 4v1. Sui might be down, but still great opportunity for another round victory. And I think it's that res that really is going to be the difference maker when all is said and done. If they had tried walling that could have really turned the tide. But it is going to be Megalodon finding the final blow, finding the final kill. It's double digits already, and I always jinx it when I say this, Vincent, so I usually don't say it, but I don't think anything is going to stop this at this rate. This looks like a 12-0 half.
Yeah, I mean, it does. And listen, I hope that Monroe can pick up a round here. I hope you've jinxed it just for their sake, but honestly, I'm on board with you. I think that this is looking to shape up to be just that. With that being said, anything's possible. The game of Valorant is ever changing. Always are possibilities, and that's just it. You gotta take every round as a brand new game, and if they do that, Monroe certainly can pick up a round or two here at the end of the half. But it is indeed going to have to be a very tough task for them to overcome. As here we are with another pistol, it appears. As Toman takes some shots and falls back. He's caught with the orb out. Nice little tappity tap going through as Toman wins that duel. Fortunately, the follow-up is not going to be there. 2 players left alive here for the defense.
Knowing exactly where that rain is, finding out Jut, and now it is this lonely breach Elmo once again. I feel like Elmo has been the last person quite a bit. 5 health and a dream, but has all their abilities online.
When in doubt, spam those abilities, right?
Oh, that's unfortunate. Turns away at the last second. I think they expected Sui to just drop all the way back, but instead Sui just used the dash kind of as a bait and then immediately ran back in. Oh, that is brutal, unfortunately, for Elmo, and that could have been a kill on the top fragger in the lobby. And on the other side, Sui is approaching a 30 bomb.
In half number 1, by the way. I mean, that is uncalled for. Maybe the word I would use. Outrageous. Innominable. Take out your dictionary or your thesaurus, and just put outrageous in there. Any of those work. And so with that, we are a Blade Storm up and an Empress out here as Sui looks to do it again. These Blades have been pretty darn solid the entire time. That 0 point gonna give some information over. There goes the showstopper. It's a good opportunity to find that opening. Blade Storm dashes forward. That's going to be a good connection. And there's Anime Cat Girl. Going to team up with the Rolling Thunder. Connects a double. And able to maybe pick this up. But Spy Crab and Megalodon able to return fire. Both players picking up a frag. Dimensional Drift out. The Viper's Pit as well. 3 versus 3 as the spike goes down.
That lockdown is still online. No, it's going to be offline now. That spike still hasn't been planted. It looks like finally they're going to do it, but this span from the Odin, isn't it enough? Notice Toman alone once more, and now they've been found out. No command was used, so that KO can be brought back depending on how they want to play this, but that suppression might be enough for this 1v1.
And remember, now you stay suppressed over time. Attempted the shot, but Toman goes down. A valiant effort. But unfortunately not to be. Megalodon with the big clutch as she confirms the 12-0 half here, Jag. That is indeed a pretty disgusting one. The icing here, or I mean maybe not the icing, more aptly at the very least, does deny Sui the 30 bomb at halftime.
So you're going to have to find 2 more kills. This could be the last round. I feel like this, I mean, it is do or die right now for Monroe, but I think just any round you can find here would be great to uplift you going into the second map of the series. if they had been a little bit quicker on that rotation, that lockdown, it was so important. They needed to throw it down and force the Greyhounds off point, but it wasn't found, and now they are on their last chance here on Breeze.
Oh, look at all that information! 3 agents suppressed! There goes the fragment. Flash drive still online, but that fragment gonna force Anime Catgirl back, and they've taken damage. Right clicked? No right clicks. Shots missing their mark, but Sui certainly isn't. Has one, make it a second as Abdullah with the entry finds one successfully. This is looking like it might be all over. Isui picks up the third. This is a nice little fine long range. Big fan of that one. It's Toman takes out Megalodon. Although this is going to leave the 1 versus 2. Sui is very, very low. Unfortunately for Toman, it's Mr. Meldog who does take the swing. And that does confirm the fact that we are at a 13-0 Jag dominant here for the Fort Scott Gaming Greyhounds.
And Sui getting 3 does confirm that is a 30 bomb, 31 kills when all is said and done. I don't want to say that was a one-man effort because there were still some pretty good plays, I would say, from Reflex, and Mr. Maldog actually made that Euro work quite a bit. I think those dimensional drifts were very effective in finding out information, but Sui, I mean, what can you do against a player this good? 31, 4-4. Their average combat score 669. I have never seen a combat score that high in a competitive game of Valorant.
I'll be honest with you. I think that's the highest I've ever seen in a game I've casted. I've seen some high 400s. I've seen like low 500. I've never seen a 669 combat score. I'm right there with you, Jag. That is outrageous, but I think it's probably fair. I think what probably allows that is that 216 econ rating, and 8 first bloods. So I think I would have to agree that, yeah, it wasn't necessarily a one-man show, but without Sui, this game is not the same by a long shot. And that combat score tells us exactly that. Despite the fact that, yes, you're right, Megalodon, nice couple of clutches we saw from her. Mr. Meldog and Reflex Finance had some fantastic shots in addition to that. So it's not, one-sided on that scoreboard, but it definitely was not a great showing from the Monroe Community College side. Fortunately, though, Monroe, they are headed towards their map pick on Bind Jag. We're going to take a break, let them get situated, and hopefully just mentally reset from that one. I know I need to. So we'll be back here in just a couple of minutes with much more Valorant, at least one more map. That's Bind coming at you in just a few.
The news says Gen Z is struggling. I've got news for them.
I wait tables, but last week I built a field hospital.
I put out a forest fire.
I stopped 1,000 attackers.
And a natural disaster.
I've saved lives. And led a team on patrol.
I serve.
Well, I go to school full-time.
While I work full-time.
The greater the challenge, the stronger we become.
What will you like today? Another Cloud 2 classic?
I'll stick with the usual. Maybe take a little bit off the sides.
Oh, that's fresh.
The HyperX Cloud 2 Wireless. Legendary comfort goes wireless.
Hey, watch your head.
A rogue virus. No jobs. Sky-high tuition debt. Life is trying to put our generation on the sidelines. But we refuse to just sit back and watch it pass us by. Instead, watch us fly ahead. Watch us overcome anything. Watch us rise. Watch us change our world. Watch us become the next greatest generation.
What sound experience would you like today?
I'll have the fantasy pack.
Good choice.
And could you make it a Cloud 2 wireless?
On his way, sir.
Sounds amazing.
The HyperX Cloud 2 Wireless. Legendary comfort goes wireless.
We understand an upside-down world, but they're writing us off before we get to the starting line. A stalled generation? Who do you think is gonna fix all this? We will, because our future is the future. The next greatest generation is now.
Hey man, I just can't find a comfortable headset. I mean, I've tried everything. Literally everything.
Sheesh, my brother. I got you.
The HyperX Cloud 2 Wireless. Legendary comfort goes wireless.
That is comfortable.
The news says Gen Z is struggling. I've got news for them.
I wait tables, but last week I built a field hospital.
I put out a forest fire.
I stopped 1,000 attackers.
And a natural disaster.
I've saved lives and led a team on patrol.
I serve.
Well, I go to school full time.
While I work full time.
The greater the challenge, the stronger we become.
What will you like today? Another Cloud 2 classic?
I'll stick with the usual. Maybe take a little bit off the sides.
Oh, that's fresh.
The HyperX Cloud 2 Wireless. Legendary comfort goes wireless.
Hey, watch your head.
A rogue virus. No jobs. Sky-high tuition debt. Life is trying to put our generation on the sidelines. But we refuse to just sit back and watch it pass us by. Instead, watch us fly ahead. Watch us overcome anything. Watch us rise. Watch us change our world. Watch us become the next greatest generation.
What sound experience would you like today?
I'll have the fantasy pack.
Good choice.
And could you make it a Cloud 2 wireless?
On his way, sir.
Sounds amazing.
The HyperX Cloud 2 Wireless. Legendary comfort goes wireless.
We understand an upside-down world, but they're writing us off before we get to the starting line. A stalled generation? Who do you think is gonna fix all this? We will, because our future is the future. The next greatest generation is now.
Hey man, I just can't find a comfortable headset. I mean, I've tried everything. Literally everything.
Sheesh, my brother. I got you.
The HyperX Cloud 2 Wireless. Legendary comfort goes wireless.
That is comfortable.
The news says Gen Z is struggling. I've got news for them.
I wait tables, but last week I built a field hospital.
I put out a forest fire.
I stopped 1,000 attackers.
And a natural disaster.
I've saved lives and led a team on patrol.
I serve.
Well, I go to school full time.
While I work full time.
The greater the challenge, the stronger we become.
What will you like today? Another Cloud 2 classic?
I'll stick with the usual. Maybe take a little bit off the sides.
Oh, that's fresh.
The HyperX Cloud 2 Wireless. Legendary comfort goes wireless.
Hey, watch your head.
We're back with more NJCAAE ARNG webinar series. It's week 3 of Valorant. My name is Vincent, joined again by Jag. We just got done watching a dominant series, I guess is a word to use to describe the 13-0 stomping. That was map number 1. We're headed to map number 2. Jag, is there any light at the end of this tunnel?
I mean, we know that this Monroe squad can take rounds off of the Greyhounds because we saw it in that game that unfortunately did end up being restarted. And, you know, I love that both teams came together. They both wanted to work through that DC. They wanted to help each other out. Greyhounds, a lot of sportsmanship there, despite the brutal game that they ended up handing to Monroe at the end of things. But we do know that they can hang at certain points, and they had rounds that they had win conditions. They had rounds that were very close. It was just a few mistakes, I would say, in rotations not being quick enough or abilities not being used at the right time. So just a few of those little decision-making things for Monroe. If they're able to clean it up going into this map, I feel like they could be a bit more competitive here.
I agree. A bit more competitive, 150%. I don't know that they could take the win. This is their map pick. Give them credit for that. So, they went to Breeze, probably an unfamiliar area. I think that honestly, their agent selections really told me it was a bit unfamiliar to them. But now we had to Bind, a place where, we know that everyone's familiar. This is an original 3 map, a map that everybody's played a million times over. And I think that they have a better opportunity here. I'm really interested to see that agent selection, because if Elmo picks back up that Breach, I think the Breach is so much better on Bind. And I'm really excited to see what he can bring out with it.
Yeah, I agree. I do think the Breach is better on Bind. I also don't think the KO is good on the other side for the Greyhound, so I don't think we'll be seeing that as much. My question is, do the Greyhounds stick with the triple duelist composition? I think Raze and Jet are still really good here, so I'd expect at least to see double duelists, but that Yoru pick, I mean, you and I were like, what is going on here? It ended up being, good. I wouldn't say amazing because, there was one player on the Greyhounds really was doing most of the work on that Jet role, but the Euro was really good for information. So do you do something instead like a Sova that can give you a lot of recon as well and has a bit more utility for the rest of the team? We're going to find out because that agent selection is going to be starting right now. And I'd love to see, an Astra or an Omen. We didn't really see a normal controller. I mean, you do have the Viper who can kind of play similar role in Breeze, but here we'll see if it works out. And Elmo already is hovering over that Breach, but now maybe it's a Reyna pick. I don't know. These teams have been baiting me like all day.
I mean, that's true. I would say the Viper is the normal controller for Breeze, but you could see a Viper here too. Looks like Sui's going to lock in the Sky. So interesting. You might ask, why Sui goes with the Sky. Well, I think no matter what Sui plays, we're going to see some fireworks. But definitely interesting not to go with that. And you asked about whether or not we're going to see a plethora of duelists, and well, they're definitely going to have some duelists. But Yoru, it's back and still kicking.
And I'm a bit worried about this Monroe draft already. I do like the Reyna. I think Reyna can do work here. I feel like she's better on other maps like Haven and Ascent, but still, if you're able to find good leaders, it can work out. But this draft seems much more defensive, in my opinion. Like, it feels like they're playing for the second half, especially with a Viper, Killjoy, and Sage, and they're starting on attack right now. So they're going to have to, survive this attacking round, get some rounds here if they want this composition to really be efficient. On the other side, like you said, Sui is going to be going to the Sky, but just because Sky is a healer character doesn't mean she can't frag. With her Trailblazer and her Guiding Light, both, stuns and flashes respectively, she still has a lot of engage and she can pop off.
And they've broken my fundamental rule here, Monroe. And to be fair, this is a fundamental rule that's for like tier 2 Valorant, so it's maybe unfair to hold the same standards, but it's never play Killjoy on Bind. That's the fundamental rule of Bind. It's just, man, it's not that Killjoy is necessarily the worst here. It's just that Cypher's so much better in literally every way. So, especially when it comes down to the attack. you really only have the lockdown. The lockdown's really hard to place. There's not a lot of intelligent ways to place the lockdown that's not very exposed. And you could really only use it on a retaking setup on the defense. As an attack-sided thing, the lockdown, pretty garbage, if you ask me.
And Cypher generally, I would say is weaker in attack, but here I think his camera is just so good. His spy cam can get you so much information, and the only equivalent you really have on the Killjoy's kit is that turret, and the turret fires away. Well, someone's somewhere, but it's not going to give you nearly enough information to know where exactly they're playing, and those page shells are going to do a good amount of damage off the bat.
Indeed they do, and I think what you're saying is that turret doesn't give you actionable intel. Whereas the camera does. Speaking of actionable intel, Reflex, that's the sort of actionable intel you like to find. The action continues with the help of the paint shells. The bot now getting involved as well, utilizing every bit of that Raze kit to the greatest effect to pick up a quad.
And if I am Reflex Finest there, I'm talking to Sui and saying, what the heck, man? Why did you take away my ace? You already had 2. Give me 1, come on. But Sui had to take that 1 kill there. I mean, of course, like, when you're winning this dominantly, I'm sure things like that aren't that important, but, you want to pop off yourself. Regardless, it's a 4K when all is said and done. A great start to this defense for the Greyhounds, and now they're going to be able to buy a little bit here. On the other side, it seems like Monroe, they're actually going to be doing a bit of a force buy. 2 Spectres coming out on their side.
And I think what we just saw is a good example of why Raze is so often picked here over the likes of Reyna. And that's kind of what you were discussing. But there's Sui taking shots, hits 2 in a row. One of those a kill, one of those a tag. The follow-up not going to be there as the guiding lights come through. Those Hawks missed their mark. As the push on the site comes in, Sky Crab is on the back of the site. Spots out 1. This is a bad timing. Terrible timing. Unfortunately stays alive. Zadia Vampire with 1. As Sui comes back in to help out with the final frag. So everything starts and ends with Sui in round number 2 as we head into the first gun round.
Yeah, now this bonus round is going to be a little awkward, I would say. I mean, Elmo and it looks like Zay are both going to have to go for Spectres here if they want to get any sort of semblance of a full buy. It is going to be a weapons advantage. We saw what happened last time. And I want to go back to the point you made really quickly about the Reyna versus the Raze. Raze is just really good because her blast pack just gets her in and out of places so efficiently. And it also does a bunch of slash damage from high ground into low ground. You saw how efficient those paint shells were. Even got the reset because of how many kills they got in the first round. The Reyna, sure, you can get a bit of crowd control of your Leer, blind people up, but you're kind of stuck in a spot once you're there. There's no way to get out. There's no mobility.
Indeed. And there we go again. Reflex Finest. He's got another one to go with it. That's a fantastic look at the paint shells. Kind of going back in time here to when, the beta was out, when Raze was absolutely busted. And Reflex Finest sort of showing us a peek at what that used to be like. Come on, the Soul Survivor. Quickly going to be a dead player who tries to get that spike planted, but it just was not enough. What went wrong there, Chag?
I think what went wrong there is they're trying to force this A short, and it's just never working. They keep trying to push down that alleyway, and immediately it's going to be controlled by Reflex Finest every time. Those paint shells have just been so efficient. Again, we got the reset because they got 2 kills. I think you try to take over showers if you really want to go to A, or at least wait, be patient, try to play for a default pick, and then maybe once the rotation has happened, then you try to go into A. But this time around, might be trying to go for a B push instead, based on where they're positioning, or it might be just more of a mid take. Mid doesn't really exist in this map; it's more like market area that exists. So we'll see how this ends up.
Yeah, and we can already see that Viper, the toxic screen. Going to be committed towards B. That gives the information. It's probably going to be a B hit. Spectre on site. It is indeed going to be a B hit. The Nebula comes down to lurk out on the site by NJCAAE Girl. And, that's a good opening. But unfortunately, Sui, who's there to defend, and has to pull out the pistol. But that pistol's just as effective. Spike's planted. But a nice double swing allows for Tomon to take 2 frags away. This is now an advantage here for Monroe. They can pick him around here realistically.
Gotta hold these angles. The gravity well is gonna pick up the Sage, but Tomon, I mean, we talked about how they were kind of the guiding force early on. Has 3, has the Vandal, and still has a decent health pool, but Reflex Finest is the one they have to face off against.
Oh, no. Oh, man, that's so frustrating. If you're Tomon, you do everything. You pick up all the entries. You pull up and clutch up, but it's Reflex Finest that you have to go against, and he's got the shots. Oh.
It's a similar result and a different way to get there. I mean, Sui still is doing really well, but Reflex Finest, this is their map. This is their time to shine. Currently 9-0-2, hasn't died, already has the showstopper online. And yeah, if you're Tomon there, I'm sure you're wishing you had a Sage Wall, a Slow Orb, something, some sort of utility in your kit that could have slowed that raise down. Instead, Reflex Finest gets to walk in, finds the shots needed, wins the fight. A Bulldog versus a Vandal, you don't see that every day. The Bulldog has a much slower rate of fire, but finds the headshots, and it's a 4-0 now.
Yeah, that's a frustrating position. I think it was 3 on the round there that the Sage had to him on, but not enough. Speaking of not enough, Reflex Finest does not have enough health to contend with that. It's a 1-for-1 trade, but as I say that, it's Zay who dispatches Sui. So the two heavy hitters, both Reflex and Sui, down and out for this side. The Gaming Greyhounds, maybe in the worst spot they've been thus far, but there's still Mr. Muldog on the site. They do have an operator. This is a unfortunate place to be in, though, because you can be traded easily. One goes down, but Spycrab for the help. It's Mr. Muldog to fall, but again, Spycrab is there and still has 60 health to his name. One player left alive, and Spycrab with the triple. Very, very slow game over on Breeze. He's showing up big.
There, Monroe, you just have to realize what your win objective is there. The raise is gone. There's no more spam damage. You can run up A. There's no worries, especially when this Cypher has been regularly playing on B, so you got to assume that they're going to keep that up. They try to go for the rotation. They try to be a little bit fancy with it. And running into that operator is just always going to be a difficult time. They do take out that Yoru, but it's not enough to get the job done. Cypher stays there, and those ultimates also were not online. The 2 ultimates they had, those members were dead. The res could have been so useful there.
Could have been, but coulda, woulda, shoulda is all they have to say for it. For now, Monroe trying to put 1 round on the board, and this time it's with a bit of a pour by. Pushed out here on towards B, met by the operator. Mr. Muldog with the frag. Sui is going to be flashed out for the time being, courtesy of that blind. Sui comes back around the corner and unfortunately is a dominant force to contend with Reflex Finest coming in from the back. A flawless victory.
And that was a very interesting play that we just saw from Sui. They don't end up getting the final kill, but you saw what they did there. They decided, hey, I'm just going to take the Spectre. I'm not going to, put myself in a position where I have to reload and then be kind of caught with my pants down. So that's a very veteran move, I would say. That's not something that you see from a lot of lower elo players. And, I mean, this is why they're an immortal player, right? Still, they are a little bit behind Reflex Finest in this map, but the map's still going the same way that the other one did. It is going to be a 6-0 lead, guaranteed at least a draw at halftime. There are 5 ultimates on the side of the attackers, so if they use all of them, or at least a good amount of them, they could find an advantage.
Something I like to say is that your score doesn't matter when the score up above is 6-0, and I think that's definitely the case here. Sui trading out Reflex trading out Sui, follows it up with another kill, and you see the usage of the gravity well. Absolutely fantastic. And oh, there we go. The res came through, but this could be a 6-man ace. Give it to him. Give him the opportunity, but Tomon shuts it down. Says, no, that is not to be. Tomon's going to quickly be met with a, oh, what? That looked like it was on him. I'm not sure if that was just a leg shot or what, but Mr. Muldog does not hit the kill.
Right now, I mean, the healing orb has been used. Pop the Empress. Why not? You already used the resurrection. It's a 2v3. This is actually a very winnable scenario. Give yourself the most advantages that you can. Megalodon going to be facing off against Tomon. I believe there is a rotation coming for Tomon eventually, so it's gonna be. They're gonna have to make a move eventually. They cannot just sit here forever.
30 seconds left.
Man, it looks like Megalodon might be struggling with some latency issues by the looks of it too. So she goes down. Elmo gonna get that spike planted. 2 versus 2, looking for the retake.
Empress online. They're up. Nope, now they're down. Never mind. And they're going to use a Dimensional Drift now to find out where this Sage is. This is looking really bad now.
Oh, that is disgusting. That should never work. That is a situation where Mr. Moldog using the surprise factor, I think, takes the advantage. But there's so much time on that animation that realistically you get punished for that 9 times out of 10. He gets away with it because of that surprise factor, and it's another victory for the Gaming Greyhounds. Ford Scott up by 1 in the series, up by 7 in this game, and unfortunately Monroe still yet to score.
4 ultimates left, though, so they only committed 1 there, so, you know, they still have a pretty healthy ult economy. I really think the Emperor should have been popped there. I just don't see why not when you're in this deep of a hole, but I agree with you on that Dimensional Drift. I mean, any animation for an ability in this game will punish you if you're out in the open, and that's why this game is different than other, like, ability-based shooters like Overwatch. You know, it's really, at the end of the day, it is a tactical shooter. Your shots matter so much, and Mr. Moldog able to hit theirs, and then immediately get back to safety. That's a great setup with the Yoru.
Yeah, that's where that Yoru really does shine, and here's Sui getting aggressive, taking the shots, and Mr. Moldog, blind as a bat, doesn't matter, has the frag anyway, make it 3. Sui's looking to close out the full house, and indeed he will. 2 for Sui, 3 for Mr. Moldog, as the Flawless chimes in again.
Oh, I mean, what a setup. Mr. Moldog almost getting an ace of their own. It seems like they're just passing around the 3Ks and 4Ks at this point. And again, this Yoru, I mean, it just shouldn't work. And yet, there it is. I mean, I was saying that earlier, the Yoru kind of works as a jet in a lot of ways. And there you see, instead of the dash, you just are able to go immediately back to a point, teleport through time and space. And I mean, why not go for that play with an operator?
And, you know, the thing about that, right? Like, yeah, it's not as quick as a jet dash, but it does mean that there's a lot more question marks, right? You don't know where he's teleported. You just know he's teleported. And if you're too far away, you don't even know that. Speaking of not knowing, I don't know how the heck they're going to deal with Sui, because this aggression is outrageous. 2 frags already, 27 health, but looking for more. As he falls back, the push-up, this shot from Mr. Moldog, doesn't matter, take out the Sheriff, and show him you can aim with that too. 1 versus 5 now, as Elmo looks to deny the Flawless, but honestly, I mean, that would just be a small victory, and it's not even going to be that, a 3rd Flawless in a row.
There was an interesting, I would say, series of events there, where, I mean, the teleporter with the operator and the Sheriff, that's something in its own right, but there's actually a great chance for Elmo to find out Sui. Sui was super weak, 27 health, regrowth. Unlike the Sage Healing Orb, does not heal up yourself. It only heals up your team in the area of effect. So Sui was very weak, very vulnerable, and actually, I'm not sure if they were unaware, but Elmo fired at them with the Spectre. It is silent, so you are able to hear that gun sound in close range, but instead of taking that duel, instead of forcing it, just kind of stays in market, and they got pincered because of it.
Yeah. It was good patience from Sui, to be fair, as well. Viper's Pit, this seems like one of those desperation Viper's Pit. And what it's going to do is allow for the entry with the lockdown. Those paint shells, though, they do massive damage. And the shots through the box going to destroy the lockdown as well. Sui coming around the back, though, going to be met by a Wild Tomon who has the frag. Mr. Moldog from heaven, dispatching more. Reflex Finest was his 2nd. He leaves just Tomon left alone with 18 HP.
That was a good attempt there with the combination of the lockdown and the Viper's Pit. You gotta do it on point. I think they were trying to use the Viper's Pit to cut off line of sight, try to avoid the Gravity Well and the Paint Shells combination that we've seen multiple times. Megalodon is just so good at the timing, perfectly in sync with Finest. And it's a 1v3. That Healing Orb will be online, so they should be able to get a little bit more sustain, but they're still kind of stuck between a rock and a hard place.
I mean, I'll say the hard place being that they're down bad in a best-of-3 series.
30 seconds
and,
left.
well, I don't know. Take your pick at what the rock is, because, oh, man, this is a hard one. Nice spot there by Spycrab. This should mean death shortly thereafter, and Megalodon has it. And, you know, this is a good example, by the way, of scoreboard not mattering. Megalodon down at the bottom. She's, you know, you look at that and you're like, oh, 3-3, not doing anything. That's a bald-faced lie. I mean, you look at all of these Gravity Wells just setting up kills for Reflex Finest time and time again.
Yeah, the gravity wells, the nebulas, just controlling the map. It's been perfection, and that's what you want from your controller. That's exactly what they're there for. They don't have to be the ones that frag out. As long as they are, creating space and chaos for the enemy team, they're doing it perfectly. And again, that synergy between Megalodon and Reflex Finest has been on points. So you're gonna get a huge guiding light. That's 3 or 4 people that are flashed.
Yeah, but the good news is it's only a 1-for-1 trade. And in fact, that trade no longer 1-for-1 as the frag goes out elsewhere and Tomon pulls out the heal, or rather the res, my apologies, meaning that this is a 2-player advantage. This is the time, this is the opportunity for the potential round victory. Gonna be a quick from the shadows to come back and regroup with the team. Actually, going to spawn, that's a very aggressive decision, but
They're gonna do it.
Gets away with it.
They're gonna do
frag.
Vincent, they're gonna
This
do
is
it.
around. They have it potentially, but no. Reflex Fine is still alive. And Megalodon, we know she's good for a clutch. This is not quite over just yet. I won't call it until it's done, but this is certainly looking good, especially as Enemy Cat Girl dispatches one player, and that is it. They got the round. Monroe not going to be swept away without a victory here in this series.
Oh, I mean, Vincent, I hope, like, those watching at home don't think we're being sarcastic. We are legitimately excited about that. That is awesome to see. I mean, obviously, the Greyhounds have just come out swinging. They have an amazing squad, but Monroe, we never want to see them go home empty-handed. We know they're trying their best, and it finally pays off. They're finally able to get around under their belt. And they still have the Empress here. They could make something happen. Maybe 10-2 going into halftime. I mean, I don't know if they can make a full comeback, but just anything, any momentum you could have is great.
Oh, did you see what just happened there? Sui faked the flash that time. And everybody actually did turn. Unfortunately, Sui missed a shot, which means that it didn't actually come to anything. So another good opening with Sui going down. The Cosmic Divide going to be committed. Ultimately, though, that doesn't really matter as the site's still wide open. And Tomon finds another one. This might be a bit of a momentum turner. But this is a 3 versus 4. This retake's still doable.
It's still online, and this is the last round to use it. You might as well try that Dimensional Drift. Probably going to come out any moment just to find a little bit of information. There it is. He's going to find out where the Reyna is. Are they going to just immediately appear there? Spycrab with 2 with the Odin.
Indeed. And they know where everyone's at, and that information is the play. Mr. Maldog, he might have only gotten a kill, but he got every little bit of info needed in order to close the round. Very intelligent use of the Dimensional Drift allows for the 11th to come to fruition for the Fort Scott Gaming Greyhounds.
Yeah, they are still doing dominant and still being dominant, still doing great things. 2 sentences mixed up a little bit there for me, but regardless, result is the same. No 30 bomb, it looks like this time. It's been much more of an even effort from both Reflex Finest and Sui. And Sui, I feel like having a little bit of fun of it. Those 2 plays they've tried to make last time, like, I don't know. That's not exactly the best thing to do if you're a Sky trying to peek 5 people. Regardless, let's try to make those big plays. Doesn't work out. Team is there to regroup. And like you said, that Dimensional Drift, finding all the information you could ever need. That Odin doing enough work. And it is good, though, to see Monroe coming back. I mean, honestly, on Breeze, they had some very close rounds. Hasn't really been the same on Vine, but these last 2, one of them was won and the other one very winnable.
Yeah, definitely. It has been a big difference between Breeze and Bind in that they have been dominant, but maybe this is the turnaround, 11-1. You pick up a pistol here, it's always possibilities. But regardless, the push here on to B is a confident one, and I guess you really can't blame anyone for that. Tula, 1 frag, 1 trade. And Megalodon to do one better. Sui on the refrag. But again, these are just trades coming back and forth. And with Zay coming back in to dispatch Sui, it's looking better and better. But Spycrab, oh man, Spycrab waiting in the corner. Good for the double. Brings things back. And it's 12 on the board.
I feel like we talked a lot about Megalodon and like their clutch factor over and over on Breeze. It really has been Spycrab here. They're not like at the top of the fragging board, but they have found clutch after clutch, especially in these last few rounds. That Cypher playing the angles they need, using their utility. That spy came specifically really, really well to find out where the enemies are, and because of that, it's going to be match point now coming up for the side of the Greyhounds.
Well, and look at the deaths for Spy Crab, least in the server, 3, right? And that kind of just shows you have been a stalwart there in the late round, playing passively. Speaking of not at all passive, it's Sui, who's just found their W key taped down on their keyboard. Unfortunately for them, that's only good for a 1-for-1 trade over towards B. It's a little bit of confidence getting the better of them, you could say.
Yeah, I think at this point they're probably just trying to have a little bit of fun with it. I think, at this point they probably assume that they have it in the bag. It's not over until it's over, as it is a 4v3 now. 4v2 actually, so this could be the penultimate round. The Megalodon with the judge. Gonna make things a little bit more even. That spike, it looks like it's gonna be planted towards A, and that rotation is not coming out from B yet.
How is this? I don't know why the heck the spike is down there and no one else is with it. That's a big misplay here for the defense. Monroe, they had an opportunity. They had an opportunity to really put themselves in good position, and now they've kind of given it away. It's 2 players coming in from 2 different angles, though. And Megalodon is sort of caught in between the both of them. Good timing, fantastic timing for Megalodon as she finds the frag. It's Reflex Finest with the final kill. And that is nails in the coffin for Monroe Community College, as it's Fort Scott Gaming Greyhounds to confirm a second victory in their season.
And I do not think this victory is ever going to be denied, but it's still great to see that Monroe, they never gave up. They kept fighting till the end, and there's going to be a lot of footage here that they can look at, can go over, VOD review, regroup. It's not over until it's over. The season is still pretty young. There's a lot of games to be played, so I still love that fighting energy. I think it's the biggest thing that Monroe can say is we never gave up and we gave it our all. On the other hand, Greyhounds, that week off looks like it did not affect them at all. They looked ferocious to this match, and I would say anyone who is in this league, the NJCAA Esports Valorant, gotta be looking out for them because they look like a top dog.
That they do. I mean, listen, it's hard to not say that when out of 26 rounds, the other team picks up 1. I mean, that really does tell a story, doesn't it? A 13-0, 13-1 scoreline here in the best of 3 series. Man, Fort Scott, you gotta give him credit. And on top of that, it's also a situation where they've had this fantastic start. Maybe they can turn that around. We talked about where they were last year. They were 2-7 last season. 2-7. What a great turnaround. Got to give credit where it's due. Really, really impressive for them to pick things up with that. But that being said, we are getting ready for an interview. I assume someone from the Gaming Greyhound side. But in order to set that up, we're going to head to a short little break. So don't go too far. We're going to come back with that interview in just a few moments.
The news says Gen Z is struggling. I've got news for them.
I wait tables, but last week I built a field hospital.
I put out a forest fire.
I stopped 1,000 attackers.
And a natural disaster.
I've saved lives. And led a team on patrol.
I serve.
While I go to school full-time.
While I work full-time.
The greater the challenge, the stronger we become.
What will you like today? Another Cloud 2 classic?
I'll stick with the usual. Maybe take a little bit off the sides.
Oh, that's fresh.
The HyperX Cloud 2 Wireless. Legendary comfort goes wireless.
Hey, watch your head.
A rogue virus. No jobs, sky-high tuition debt. Life is trying to put our generation on the sidelines. But we refuse to just sit back and watch it pass us by. Instead, watch us fly ahead. Watch us overcome anything. Watch us rise. Watch us change our world. Watch us become the next greatest generation.
What sound experience would you like today?
I'll have the fantasy pack.
Good choice.
And could you make it a Cloud 2 wireless?
On his way, sir.
Sounds amazing.
The HyperX Cloud 2 Wireless. Legendary comfort goes wireless.
We understand an upside-down world, but they're writing us off before we get to the starting line. A stalled generation? Who do you think is gonna fix all this? We will, because our future is the future. The next greatest generation is now.
Hey man, I just can't find a comfortable headset. I mean, I've tried everything. Literally everything.
Sheesh, my brother. I got you.
The HyperX Cloud 2 Wireless. Legendary comfort goes wireless.
That is comfortable.
The news says Gen Z is struggling. I've got news for them.
I wait tables, but last week I built a field hospital.
I put out a forest fire.
I stopped 1,000 attackers.
And a natural disaster.
I've saved lives. And led a team on patrol.
I serve.
Well, I go to school full-time.
While I work full-time.
The greater the challenge, the stronger we become.
What will you like today? Another Cloud 2 classic?
I'll stick with the usual. Maybe take a little bit off the sides.
Oh, that's fresh.
The HyperX Cloud 2 Wireless. Legendary comfort goes wireless.
Hey, watch your head.
A rogue virus. No jobs. Sky-high tuition debt. Life is trying to put our generation on the sidelines. But we refuse to just sit back and watch it pass us by. Instead, watch us fly ahead. Watch us overcome anything. Watch us rise. Watch us change our world. Watch us become the next greatest generation.
What sound experience would you like today?
I'll have the fantasy pack.
Good choice.
And could you make it a Cloud 2 wireless?
On his way, sir.
Sounds amazing.
The HyperX Cloud 2 Wireless. Legendary comfort goes wireless.
We understand an upside-down world, but they're writing us off before we get to the starting line. A stalled generation? Who do you think is gonna fix all this? We will, because our future is the future. The next greatest generation is now.
Hey man, I just can't find a comfortable headset. I mean, I've tried everything. Literally everything.
Sheesh, my brother. I got you.
The HyperX Cloud 2 Wireless. Legendary comfort goes wireless.
That is comfortable.
The news says Gen Z is struggling. I've got news for them.
I wait tables, but last week I built a field hospital.
I put out a forest fire.
I stopped 1,000 attackers.
And a natural disaster.
I've saved lives. And led a team on patrol.
I serve.
Well, I go to school full-time.
While I work full-time.
greater the challenge, the stronger we become.
What will you like today? Another Cloud 2 classic?
I'll stick with the usual. Maybe take a little bit off the sides.
Oh, that's fresh.
The HyperX Cloud 2 Wireless. Legendary comfort goes wireless.
Hey, watch your head.
And we're back here with the NJCAAE ARNG webinar series. And we are here getting ready for our interview with the one, the only Reflex Finest, the top frag there in map number 2. So without further ado, let's pull in here Reflex Finest. All right, real Reflex. We absolutely appreciate you coming on here and taking the time to do the interview. First of all, how are you doing?
I'm doing pretty good. How about you guys?
Oh man, doing fantastic. And well, to be honest, I'm sure you guys are feeling good after that victory. But let me ask you this: coming from last season, obviously not the season you were looking for from a win-loss perspective, or just in general. But a 2-0 start. I mean, from last season to now, what are the feelings there in your camp?
I don't think our team has ever been more hyped for our season. Last season, we've had a couple loose ends, but with our new players, we got Caleb and Kiana, that is Megalodon and Sui. They have kind of brought those loose ends together, and we're feeling hyped for this season. Off to an amazing start.
Yeah, and I kind of want to touch upon that. I actually got to talk to Megalodon earlier on, and she was super excited. She felt really good about how the season started. Can you kind of talk to me more about how them coming onto this squad has changed things up and led to the success early on?
So, like for our last season, kind of everybody was kind of like differentiated. Everybody wasn't on the same wavelength, but we have two amazing players now that we're kind of just on the same level with. Comms are amazing, plays are amazing. Everybody's watching each other's angles. It's just going amazingly for us.
Yeah, it definitely has. Now, I want to talk about Sui a little bit more because they had the performance
Yeah.
of a lifetime on Breeze. 31 was their final kill count, a few assists, and I think only 3 deaths, and all was said and done. So, they had that performance on Breeze, but then we swapped over to Bind. They went to the Sky. You stayed on Raze, and then you had some amazing plays with your paint shell specifically. What was it like kind of becoming the duelist carry there versus on on Breeze, where, you had this amazing performance from Sui?
On Breeze, it's a little more open. It's kind of hard to get some boom bots and nade kills on there. But on Bind is Raze's map, definitely. There's hard corners that most people think the sit are safe, but they're not when there's a Raze on there.
Kind of along those same lines, not to take anything away from you because you did a fantastic job, but I think that there was certainly a helping factor, and that was Megalodon on the Astra. She had some fantastic gravity wells. How does that communication come together?
It's going actually really well. Later that game, we were actually talking about a new idea for us, with doing the gravity well and throwing my paint shells there, or even a boom bot.
Yeah.
But her one ways on that that top box and a short was very helpful for some of my jiggle peaks.
Absolutely, and we saw the fruit of the labor of the both of you there come to fruition. Fantastic game number 2. With that though, I do want to ask a final question to you. Do you have anybody that you want to shout out, say hello to here at the back end of the broadcast?
Uh, Honestly, I'm gonna have to do a shout out to my coach that is also here with this room. He has done an amazing job this year, kept us all grounded on a routine schedule. He's kind of not just the team, but we've kind of made us a family almost.
Heck yeah, absolutely love that. Well, Reflex, thank you once again for coming on, and well, we appreciate you coming, and also congratulations to your team.
Thank you. Can't wait to see the future games.
And
All
I'm
right.
gonna I got one last final note I want to say before you send it out. I just want to say like that gaming room was sick. Like, you know, we only got to see it a little bit, like the low light
Yeah.
though. That was really cool. And uh it's just like it's really cool to like see how junior collegiate programs have advanced like going forward. Like I really love to see all this. So that's all I wanted to say. Just best of luck to you guys in this season.
Yeah, and it definitely is pretty awesome. Love to see it. But with that, unfortunately, I hate to say it, Jag, it is just about that time for you and I to say a farewell to everyone here on the stream. It's been a fun day, a pretty quick one to be fair. Not a whole lot of resistance there from Monroe, but I'm sure they're going to have some more success in their later games. Nonetheless, with that being said, I want to say a huge thank you and shout out to anyone and everyone who has been tuning in, and of course everyone on the back end as well. Absolutely couldn't be here without them. Service producers and everything doing a fantastic job. With that though, we do want to say goodbye and have a great rest of your evening from us here on the Caster Desk. We'll see you next time.
The news says Gen Z is struggling. I've got news for them.
I wait tables, but last week I built a field hospital.
I put out a forest fire.
I stopped 1,000 attackers.
And a natural disaster.
I've saved lives. And led a team on patrol.
I serve.
While I go to school full-time.
While I work full-time.
The greater the challenge, the stronger we become.
What will you like today? Another Cloud 2 classic?
I'll stick with the usual. Maybe take a little bit off the sides.
Oh, that's fresh.
The HyperX Cloud 2 Wireless. Legendary comfort goes wireless.
Hey, watch your head.
A rogue virus. No jobs. Sky-high tuition debt. Life is trying to put our generation on the sidelines. But we refuse to just sit back and watch it pass us by. Instead, watch us fly ahead. Watch us overcome anything. Watch us rise. Watch us change our world. Watch us become the next greatest generation.
What sound experience would you like today?
I'll have the fantasy pack.
Good choice.
And could you make it a Cloud 2 wireless?
On his way, sir.
Sounds amazing.
The HyperX Cloud 2 Wireless. Legendary comfort goes wireless.
We understand an upside-down world, but they're writing us off before we get to the starting line. A stalled generation? Who do you think is gonna fix all this? We will, because our future is the future. The next greatest generation is now.
Hey man, I just can't find a comfortable headset. I mean, I've tried everything. Literally everything.
Sheesh, my brother. I got you.
The HyperX Cloud 2 Wireless. Legendary comfort goes wireless.
That is